Chapter 4:16. Lin Jiej couldn't be bothered to argue with them, so he got straight to the point. Tomorrow morning, head to Mountain Changming and help me keep an eye on a few things. The first thing is to tell the open-air restaurant at the top of Changming Mountain to prepare a light dinner. Cancel all the spicy dishes and replace them with nutritious ones. Also, try to reduce the seafood as much as possible. Also, don't serve red wine. Replace it with brown sugar water. Oh, and for dessert, cancel the vanilla ice cream and replace it with taro pudding. The second thing is that Yao Yao mustn't overexert herself tomorrow, so it's best that we don't climb to the top of the mountain. When you arrive at Mountain Changming tomorrow, book a sightseeing bus. After instructing the important matters, Lin Jiej pondered for a moment. He was just about to say that there was nothing else when he suddenly recalled the words "keep warm." They were going to have dinner at the top of the mountain tomorrow, and after dinner he was going to bring Soft Bun to see the surprise he had prepared for her. After that, there would be the fireworks that he had specially arranged for her. And after that, it would be time for him to confess to her. Conservatively speaking, it would be around 9 p.m. by the time he was done with all of this. Since Soft Bun had accepted his confession, he couldn't possibly send her home right away. He still had to bring her to admire the night view of the mountain and admire the moon and stars. Perhaps he could even accompany her for supper. After all, she was such a delicious person. If that was the case, it would probably be midnight by the time they descended the mountain. Even though it was summer and the nights weren't cold, they were still in the suburbs, not to mention on top of a mountain to be on the safe side. Lin Jiej changed his words into a reminder. Oh, also, get the staff to prepare a cape for me. Lin Jiej paused for a moment before adding, and a heat pack and a hot water bag as well. Who cares if I'll be able to use them or not? I'll just prepare them first. After confirming that he didn't miss anything out, Lin Jiej asked, have you all memorized everything? Lu Binlai, boss, don't worry. I've memorized every single word you said. For the sake of my future wife, I guarantee that I'll complete this mission perfectly. Xia Shangzhou, +1. As long as I think about how I can escape from my older sister's misery, putting aside memorizing everything, I'm willing to even give boss a kick. Lin Jiej shot a disdainful glance at Xia Shangzhou and said, my leg says that he doesn't like you. Ha ha. Hearing Lin Jiej's words, Lu Binlai burst out laughing mercilessly at Xia Shangzhou. However, this time around he didn't mock Xia Shangzhou at all. Instead, he quickly reined in his gloating smile and turned to Lin Jiej. Boss, is there something wrong with little Junior recently? It's none of your business whether Soft Bun is a special case or not. Lin Jiej shot a sidelong glance at Lu Binlai before lying back down on the bed. Lu Binlai shook his head regretfully and sighed. It's a pity that little Junior is a special case. If our boss were to confess his love to her tomorrow, wouldn't he be unable to enjoy a night of passion anymore? What do you mean a night of passion is worth 1,000 taels of gold? What nonsense are you spouting? Lin Jiej closed his eyes, but for some reason, his ears felt a little warm. Chapter 4:17. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej asked, do you really think that Soft Bun will accept my confession? Lu Binlai, of course. Is there any girl in the world who would reject our boss's confession? Xia Shangzhou. Unless she's not a girl. No, even if she's a guy, there's no way he'll be able to reject our boss's confession, unless he's inhuman. Lu Binlai. Old Xia is right. Besides, the fate between me and my wife is as deep as the ocean. Just my wife's phone number is enough to convince little Junior to accept your confession. Xia Shangzhou. Ever since I was young, I've never won the lottery or picked up money on the streets. I'm already so pitiful, so I don't believe that I'll be so pitiful that I won't even have a chance to regain my freedom. So, I believe that the heavens will surely grant little Junior and boss a happy ending on account of my desire to escape from my sister's clutches. Lin Jiej silently closed his eyes. He shouldn't have asked those two. What the hell did they know? Lu Binlai. Boss will be married off tomorrow, and room 501 will have another empty bed. I can't help but feel a little disappointed. Me too, Xia Shangzhou said. My heart feels heavy. My nearly 9-digit savings just went into little Junior's pocket, just like that. Lu Binlai. But thinking about it, it's not a bad thing. This is equivalent to having another cloakroom for me, don't you think? Xia Shangzhou. Now that you mention it, I guess you're right. I'll be able to smoke openly in the dormitory room, and I won't have to be chased to the balcony by our boss who hates the smell of smoke anymore. While their words were infuriating, there was still a good omen that he and Soft Bun would end up together. Forget it, I won't argue with them anymore. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej flipped his body over. Noticing Lin Jiej's actions, Lu Benlai hurriedly corrected himself. But I'm poor, so I can't afford to buy that many clothes. I don't need a second cloakroom. Besides, how can Song Chaoshi compare to our boss? Even if our boss isn't in the dormitory room anymore, we should still keep our bed. And we should kowtow to him 3 times a day. Xia Shangzhou, whose survival instincts were also off the charts, nodded in agreement. Smoking is harmful to one's health, and smoking indoors is also bad. I want to quit smoking. Lin Jiej's lips twitched as he asked, so, do you really think that Yao Yao and I will end up together? Lu Benlai, absolutely. Xia Shangzhou, there's no doubt about it. Hearing the confident words of the duo, Lin Jiej fell into deep thought for a moment before closing his eyes once more. Come to think of it, this seemed to be the first time in his life that he was so unsure of something. All along, he had thought of himself as a confident and composed person, but when it came to Soft Bun, he saw a flaw in himself. So, is this the feeling of loving someone? Worried about personal gains and losses, nervous and uneasy, paranoid. On the 29th at 8 a.m., Shi Yao woke up. She first went to the cafeteria for breakfast before returning to the dormitory to pack her things and prepare to go home. But before returning home, Shi Yao made a trip to the hospital to pay a visit to Grandpa Lin. By the time she left the hospital and returned home, it was almost evening. After dinner, Shi Yao accompanied her mother for a stroll downstairs. When she returned home, she saw that less than 111,111 had invited her into the game. So she logged into the game. Chapter 418. It was only 9 in the morning. She didn't sleep this early even when she was taking her examinations. Given that it was the start of the summer holidays, only a fool would sleep this early. Shi Yao blinked her eyes and asked doubtfully, "It's still early. Is that so?" Mr. Numbers replied with a single word before falling silent. After another round, Mr. Numbers, who had been silent for the better part of the game, spoke up once more. "It's already 10. Aren't you going to sleep yet?" This was really weird. In the past, they would play until 1 or 2 in the morning. What was going on today? Mr. Numbers kept urging her to sleep. Shi Yao frowned and replied, "Isn't it only 10? Besides, I won't be able to fall asleep even if you want me to." "All right then, let's play another round." As the host of the game, less than 111,111's voice sounded in the room, and he started the game. At 10:27 a.m., Shi Yao heard Mr. Numbers' hypnotizing voice through her earpiece once more. "Can you sleep now?" Shi Yao tilted her head and pondered for a moment before a possibility came to her mind. "Do you have something to do? If you have something to do, you should go ahead and do it." 111111 I actually didn't get it right. Shi Yao felt even more perplexed. "If you don't have anything to do, why do you keep urging me to sleep?" Tomorrow you..." Mr. Numbers seemed to have said something, but he suddenly fell silent. Shi Yao waited for a moment, but seeing that Mr. Numbers wasn't saying anything, she couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong with me tomorrow?" Less than 111,111. "Oh, I mean that you won't have the energy to sleep tomorrow if you sleep so late." Somehow, Shi Yao felt that this wasn't what Mr. Numbers was trying to say, but she couldn't figure out what he was trying to say. So she took a bite of the ham sausage and replied, "As long as I'm full, there's no way I won't be energetic." Mr. Numbers fell silent for a few seconds before he replied, "Even if you're energetic, you should still be sleeping. Sleeping early and waking up early is good for your health, especially for girls." Was it really that simple? Why didn't I believe it? Shi Yao pondered for a moment as she ate the ham sausage, but she couldn't come up with anything. So she said, "All right then. I'll play one more round before going to bed." After a few seconds, 111111 said, "Okay." Then the game began. A minute later, they boarded the plane, and as soon as the plane could be parachuted down, Mr. Numbers brought her down to the ground. After that, Mr. Numbers was run over by a car. And after that, she was left alone. watching helplessly as she was pummeled to death by the fists of two people. After that, Mr. Number's voice sounded in her ears. "All right, the game is over. You can go to sleep now." So, his so-called game was to bring her to the ground as fast as possible and turn her into a box. In that case, it would be better to have no game at all. Shiryao puffed up her cheeks. She couldn't be bothered with Mr. Numbers anymore. So she logged out of the game and went to take a bath. However, when she returned to the bedroom after taking a shower, she found that her phone had received a few WeChat messages and a text message. She took a look at her WeChat first. It was a message from Mr. Numbers. "Are you angry? I really want you to sleep early and wake up early. I'll give you back 10 chicken dinners later." Ignoring less than 111,111, Shiryao went straight to the message section. It was a message from Lin Jiej. "Tomorrow at 11 a.m. Mountain Changming. Don't forget about it." Chapter 419. Wasn't this something that they had agreed on a long time ago? Was he reminding her today because he was afraid that she would forget about it? Shiryao didn't think too much into it. She tapped on the screen a few times and replied, "I didn't forget about it. I remember it." Perhaps it was because Lin Jiej was looking at his phone, but a second after she sent the message, the screen lit up right after she put down her phone. "Lin Jiej. His reply was simply to express that he had received her message, right? If that was the case, there was no need for her to reply to him, right? Shiryao pondered for a moment before deciding not to reply to Lin Jiej's message. Instead, she put down her phone and went to apply her skincare cream. Just as she was about to finish applying the lotion on her face, her phone rang again. It was another message from Lin Jiej. "It's good that you remember it. It's good that you remember it. Why does there seem to be something wrong with those two words?" Shiryao stared at her phone screen for a moment, but she couldn't find anything wrong with it. Then she remembered that Lin Jiej had sent her 2 consecutive messages, so she replied with, "See you tomorrow." Putting down her phone, Shiryao went back to applying her skincare cream. Her phone rang again. Logically speaking, she thought that Lin Jiej would reply with "see you tomorrow," so she wasn't in a hurry to check his message. When she was finally done, she lay down on her bed and picked up her phone. It was only then that she realized that she had only gotten 2 words right. "Lin Jiej. I just checked the route. If we meet at 11 tomorrow, you'll be heading out at around 9:20. She wasn't a fool. It was common knowledge that she should know, so why did he have to repeat it to her? While Shiryao was perplexed, she thought that Lin Jiej was probably just giving her a friendly reminder. So she still replied with a friendly tone, "I understand. Thank you." Shiryao thought that this was the end of the conversation, but a minute later, she received yet another message from Lin Jiej. "Will you be able to wake up tomorrow? Do you need me to wake you up? It's 9 in the morning, not 5 in the morning. Why can't I wake up? Is Lin Jiej sure that I didn't ask the wrong question?" Shiryao blinked her eyes, thinking that her eyes were playing tricks on her. She read the message carefully once more, but before she could reply to Lin Jiej's message, another message popped up on her screen. "Perhaps you should set an alarm?" "Forget it. I'll pick you up tomorrow and wake you up." Seriously? It's just a field trip. Why does he make it sound so important? This wasn't Lin Jiej's style at all. The more Shiryao read through the message, the more she felt that something was amiss. Biting on her finger, she pondered for a moment before a thought suddenly struck her, and her eyes lit up. She swiftly typed, "I got it. You're not Lin Jiej. You're Sis Jai, right?" Only Sis Jai would treat her as though she was ignorant of the ways of the world, caring for her as though she would be at a disadvantage no matter what she did. Without waiting for the other party's reply, Shiryao, who had already confirmed her suspicions, continued sending messages. The closer it got to the confession, the more nervous Lin Jiej became. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to wake up the next day, so he set an alarm clock every minute and set 10 alarm clocks in a row. Chapter 420. But before he could even finish writing his message, he received a reply from her. She said that he was Lin Jai. In the past she treated me as her grandfather, and now she's treating me as her sister. Just what in the world is she up to? Lin Jiej was just about to give Shiryao a call when he received yet another message from her. "Sis Jai, I know that you're concerned about me, but I'm not a child. I know how to take care of myself. I'm the one who's concerned about her. What sis Jai? Lin Jiej harumphed inwardly as another message popped up on his screen. Sure Yao. But sis Jai, I'm still very grateful to you. Let's meet at the entrance of Mountain Changming tomorrow. Moi. Moi moi. Lin Jiej's attention was instantly captured by those three words. Moi. Moi. Soft Bun sent me a moi. Even though she thought that he was Lin Jai, the fact that she sent it to his phone meant that she was sending it to him. Moi. With this thought in mind, a faint smile crept up Lin Jiej's lips. Perhaps it was due to his lack of response, but Sure Yao realized that something was amiss, so she sent him another message. You aren't sis Jai? It looks like Soft Bun isn't as dumb as she used to be. Lin Jiej raised his hand and replied. What do you think? Sure Yao. Sure Yao. I'm sorry, I thought that you were sis Jai. Sure Yao. That's because I know sis Jai to be a gentle and considerate person. But when did you become so naggy? Gentle? Considerate? Lin Jai? Are you sure these three words can be put together? It can't be that Soft Bun's language was taught by the gatekeeper, right? Naggy? Why did those messages sound like concern to Lin Jai, but naggy to me? Do you have to be so blatant about the difference in treatment? Forget it, there's no need to make a fuss about it. After tomorrow night, Soft Bun will be mine. As for Lin Jai, what kind of storm could a woman like her stir up? With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jiej took a look at the time. It was already close to midnight, so he quickly replied. It's getting late. You should sleep early. Sure Yao. Good night. Lin Jiej. Good night. Seeing Lin Jiej's good night, Sure Yao didn't respond to his message. Instead, she put down her phone, turned on the sleep light, and closed her eyes. Just as Sure Yao was about to doze off, she suddenly thought of a certain matter. Mr. Numbers had been urging her to sleep while they were playing the game that night, and after she received Lin Jiej's message, Lin Jiej had been worrying that she might never wake up. These were clearly two different matters, but why did they feel so similar to one another? They were originally cold and reserved, but they suddenly became so talkative and long-winded. This increasingly strange scene made her a little uncomfortable. But then again, how could two people change at the same time? What a tacit understanding, as if they were the same person. Lin Jiej's alarm didn't come in handy at all. He woke up before 5 in the morning, and after that he couldn't fall asleep anymore. He woke up before 7 o'clock, took a shower and washed his hair. He tossed and turned for a full hour before he stopped. Chapter 421. Lu Binlai. 1 word handsome. 2 words super handsome. 3 words super handsome. 4 words so handsome that I'm turning gay. I'm not interested in you. Lin Jiej coldly interrupted Lu Binlai's words as he looked at Xia Shangzhou. Compared to Lu Binlai's exaggerated compliments, Xia Shangzhou was even more unconventional. Boss, your looks are out of this world. Even if you're wearing the emperor's new clothes, you're still handsome. The emperor's new clothes? Isn't it just streaking? Lin Jiej glared at Xia Shangzhou. Xia Shangzhou shuddered and quickly changed his words. Boss, what I meant earlier was to compliment your looks. I didn't mean to imply anything else. You're really handsome. If I were a woman, I'd be racking my brains to climb into your bed every night. Lin Jiej sneered coldly as he tossed an indifferent dream on at him. Then he raised his chin toward the mirror. Even though he had agreed to meet Sure Yao at the entrance of Mountain Changming at 11, but Lin Jiej was already waiting at the entrance of Mountain Changming before it was even 9. It was still early. He had slept late last night and woken up early in the morning. Sitting in the car, he waited for a while, and eventually he felt a little drowsy. He took a look at the time and confirmed that it was still early. So, he set another 10 alarms before closing his eyes. At 10:30, his alarm rang punctually. Lin Jiej yawned as he adjusted the back of his seat and sat up. He looked at the mirror above the car, and just as he was about to check the dashboard, someone knocked on the car window. He turned around and saw that it was Sure Yao, who had arrived half an hour earlier than him. He quickly put away the mirror and pushed open the car door. Morning? Morning, Sure Yao replied. Then she asked, have you been here for long? Nope, I just arrived. Sure Yao replied with an "oh," not suspecting anything. According to their original plan, Lin Jiej would bring Shi Yao to a nearby farmhouse after the two of them met up. Even though Shi Yao had arrived half an hour earlier, there wasn't enough time for them to do anything else. So Lin Jiej suggested that they have lunch first. Of course, Shi Yao wouldn't turn him down. It was already 1 in the afternoon by the time they finished lunch. So Lin Jiej and Shi Yao entered Mountain Changming. Even though it was summer, the trees were lush, and the river was gurgling. The temperature was several degrees lower than in the city. The two of them walked along the ancient stone path up the mountain. Many people came to the Chongming Mountain for sightseeing, and many of them were couples. Seeing a man buying a bottle of water for a lady, Lin Jiej followed suit. Seeing a man holding an umbrella for a lady, he also bought an umbrella for Shi Yao. Seeing a man taking a photo for a lady, he also asked Shi Yao if she wanted to take a souvenir. On the way up Lianshan Mountain, there was a wishing tree with wooden plaques tied with a red string hanging from it. Seeing that there were couples going there to make a wish, Lin Jiej brought Shi Yao along as well. Just like that, under Lin Jiej's guidance, the two of them managed to reach the midpoint of the mountain. Lin Jiej remembered that these few days were a special period for Shi Yao, so he asked her if she was tired and if she wanted to take the sightseeing bus, but he was rejected. In the end, he still called for a sightseeing bus to bring them up the mountain. As they wanted to enjoy the scenery along the way, the speed of the sightseeing bus was very slow. By the time he reached the top of the mountain, it was already dusk. The sun was setting in the west, and the entire mountain top was dyed red. Today's weather was exceptionally good. The sky was blue and the clouds were white. Enjoying the cool breeze of the evening, Lin Jiej took in the scenery of Mountain Changming. Subconsciously, his gaze fell on Shi Yao, who was standing by the side. She was taking pictures of the setting sun with her phone, and Lin Jiej turned his head to look at her. Chapter 422. As the sun gradually set, Shi Yao, who was done taking photos, turned around and said to Lin Jiej, "I didn't think that such a remote place would have such beautiful scenery." Lin Jiej nodded as he turned his gaze to the clouds not too far away. "But the most beautiful thing isn't the scenery." His voice wasn't too loud, and the wind was too strong, so Shi Yao didn't hear him clearly. "What is it?" Lin Jiej didn't say a word. He gazed at the clouds for a long while before replying, "It's nothing. Let's go and have dinner." "All right." Shi Yao immediately put away her phone, and a smile crept up her face. Then she turned around and headed toward the small town on the mountain. Lin Jiej followed behind Shi Yao, and as he stared at her back, he couldn't help but recall the words he had said earlier. "But the most beautiful thing isn't the scenery but you." Lin Jiej brought Shi Yao to an open-air restaurant. Compared to the bustling scene when they first entered the restaurant, the place where Lin Jiej and Shi Yao were seated was much quieter. The dining table was huge, and Shi Yao and Lin Jiej sat facing each other. At the center of the table was a bouquet of fresh flowers, and beside it was a candlestick with 9 candles. Beneath the table was a burning mosquito-repellent incense. It was hard to tell what kind of flowers were planted around them, but the fragrance was strong, but it wasn't pungent. Lin Jiej had ordered the dishes in advance, so after he and Shi Yao took their seats, the waiter asked, "Mr. Lin, shall we serve the dishes now?" Lin Jiej nodded without saying a word. With a smile, the waiter replied with an "all right" before leaving. Not too long later, a waiter pushed a cart over. After the waiter placed the dishes on the table, Shi Yao picked up her chopsticks, and just as she was about to pick up the sweet and sour pork, a thought suddenly occurred to her, and she raised her head to ask, "Isn't this the summer camp? Where are the others?" When she saw him alone in the afternoon, she thought that the others had already gone up the mountain. Yet, it was already dinner time, and it was still just the two of them. Hearing Shi Yao's question, Lin Jiej, who was in the midst of scooping soup for her, raised his head in bewilderment and asked, "What others?" Shi Yao blinked her eyes, and it took her a moment to recover. "You only invited me to the summer camp?" "That's right." Lin Jiej nodded as he placed the bowl of soup in front of Shi Yao. "Thank you." Shi Yao fell silent for a moment before replying, "I thought that you and I weren't the only ones at the summer camp. There'll be others too." "I didn't. I only called for you." Lin Jiej raised his head to look at Shi Yao. The flickering candlelight reflected in his eyes made him look even more dashing and handsome. Shiryao opened her mouth wanting to ask why, but before she could do so, Lin Jiej, who was seated opposite her, spoke up once more. I have something to tell you later. So, he called her out because he had something to talk to her about. What a coincidence seeing him today, she also had something to talk to him about. Could it be that they wanted to talk about the same thing? With such thoughts in mind, Shiryao's eyebrows creased into crescents as she said, Me too. There's something I want to talk to you about today. Huh. To think that Soft Bun would also have something to tell him. Could it be that she had prepared a surprise for him as well? But her surprise shouldn't be bigger than the surprise he gave her, right? Lin Jiej maintained his composure and said, Shall we talk about it after dinner? Sure. Shiryao nodded in agreement. An hour later, Shiryao finally put down her chopsticks. After the waiter left with the dessert, Shiryao asked, What do you want to talk to me about? Chapter 423. What about you? Don't you have something to tell me too? Lin Jiej asked as he stirred the coffee in front of him. Since it was Soft Bun who was speaking first, he might as well let her speak first. Thus he said, Why don't you tell me what you want to say first? Alright then. Shiryao didn't stand on ceremony with Lin Jiej. After agreeing to his request, she looked at Lin Jiej through the candlelight and said, I've found out about one thing, and that is that Grandpa Lin has been feigning illness all this while. So, I think I can bring up the matter regarding the annulment of our engagement with your family. Grandpa? Feigning illness? Annulment of our engagement? Bring it up with my family. As these words drifted into Lin Jiej's ears one after another, he suddenly felt as if someone had smashed his head with a wooden club several times, causing him to freeze on the spot. There were still remnants of the doting and indulgent look on his face when he had allowed Shiryao to speak first earlier. He stared at Shiryao for a long while before blinking his eyes lightly. Then, with a hint of uncertainty in his voice, he asked, What did you say? Did I not express myself clearly earlier? Or perhaps, he was doubting my claim that Grandpa Lin was feigning illness? Shiryao pondered for 2 seconds before speaking once more. Just like before, her voice was still as gentle as before. I received a video a few days ago. In the video, Grandpa Lin and Auntie Sun were having a hot pot together in the hospital ward. In the video, Grandpa Lin seemed to be in high spirits, and he didn't seem to be sick at all. Because I don't really like the person who posted the video, I didn't believe her at the time. But on the second day of the summer holidays, I went to visit Grandpa Lin. When I arrived, Grandpa Lin's condition was indeed very bad. He was coughing non-stop and his face was swollen. At that time, I thought that the person who posted the video was definitely slandering Grandpa Lin. But I didn't stay for long before Grandpa Lin asked me to go home. I didn't think too much about it and left the ward. But when I reached the entrance of the hospital, I realized that I had left my subway card in Grandpa Lin's ward. When I went back to get it, I saw Grandpa Lin playing chess with the people in the ward next door. He was even eating ice cream. That was how I knew that the person who posted the video wasn't lying to me. As Shiryao spoke, she took out her phone and tapped into her photo gallery. She found a few photos and pushed them over to Lin Jiej. Look, these are the photos I took that day. You'll know that I'm not lying to you after seeing them. Shiryao spoke for a very, very long time, but Lin Jiej felt as if he was listening to a heavenly book. With a dazed expression, he leaned against the back of his chair, maintaining his previous posture for a long while before he slowly turned his gaze to Shiryao's phone screen. Just as she had said earlier, it was really a scene of Grandpa Lin playing chess and eating ice cream with another person. Completely oblivious to Lin Jiej's thoughts, Shiryao waited for him to stare at the photo for a moment before speaking up once more. I was thinking of calling you yesterday to tell you about this matter, but after some thought, I realized that I'm going to the summer camp with you today, so I decided to tell you today. Due to the long period of neglect, Lin Jiej's phone screen had already turned black, but he was still staring at Shiryao's phone. Chapter 424. There was still no response from Lin Jiej. Shiryao frowned as she called out once more, Lin Jiej, Lin Jiej. After she called out his name twice, Lin Jiej's body suddenly twitched a little as he turned his gaze to Shiryao and asked, What did you say? I said, When are we going to tell your family about the annulment of our engagement? Shi Yao repeated her words once more. Lin Jie replied with an "oh" before falling silent once more. However, this time his mind didn't go completely blank like before. This was completely different from what he had expected. Didn't they say that it would be a surprise? This was practically a shock. Also, is there something wrong with my grandfather? Why did he feign illness when he had nothing better to do? So what if he was faking it? Why did he have to expose it now? What number one godly assist in the history of mankind? That's just a goddamn trap. However, Soft Bun said that she had confirmed that her grandfather was feigning illness yesterday, and she had thought of calling him to bring up the matter immediately. However, she remembered that she had an appointment today, so she decided to delay it until today. In other words, deep down in Soft Bun's heart, she had never forgotten about the annulment of their engagement. Chapter 425. Besides, we're still young. After the annulment of our engagement, we'll both be free. You can look for your true love and I'll look for my lover H-lover. At this point Lin Jie was already at a loss for words. He could clearly hear the sound of something shattering coming from his chest. He found it hard to believe, and he was at a complete loss as to what to do. This was completely different from what he had imagined. He had been worried that he might forget his lines when confessing to Soft Bun, worried that Soft Bun would reject him, and of course, he had also imagined Soft Bun being overjoyed to see the scene he had meticulously prepared for her. Perhaps she might even tug on his sleeves and burst into tears. All in all, he had never thought that Soft Bun would bring up the annulment of their engagement again. Was he too confident all this while, thinking that she would be his just because he liked her, or was he just having a nightmare weird? Why is Lin Jie so silent? Shi Yao waited for a moment, but seeing that he wasn't going to speak, she could only ask once more. Why aren't you saying anything? Lin Jie reined in his thoughts and replied, nothing. Hearing his reply, Shi Yao continued. Have you thought of a day when we'll have a showdown with your family? Lin Jie wasn't in a hurry to answer her. Instead, he secretly pinched his thigh, and the sharp pain shattered his fantasies. This is real, not a nightmare. Why isn't it a nightmare? Now, in this kind of situation, how was he supposed to answer her question? Should he tell her that he didn't want to annul the engagement? Or should he tell her that he didn't like her? But no matter which answer he chose, wouldn't he be met with a rejection? After all, her reaction earlier was so clear. She didn't like him, and she had been thinking of annulling the engagement from the very start. Shi Yao. Lin Jie snapped out of his daze. He looked at Shi Yao's face through the candlelight, and his tone was a little nonchalant. I'll have to think about it first. Shi Yao. Then when can you give me an answer? Lin Jie only managed to utter a single word before he suddenly found himself at a loss for words. He fell silent for a moment before changing the topic. Let's talk about it later. It's getting late, so we should head down the mountain. Without waiting for Shi Yao's response, Lin Jie gestured for the waiter to pay the bill. When the attendant passed the bill over, Lin Jie was just about to sign it when Shi Yao suddenly recalled that Lin Jie had something to talk to her about. So she quickly asked, right, didn't you say that you have something to talk to me too? Hearing Shi Yao's question, Lin Jie tightened his grip on the pen. With a lowered eyelid, he signed his name calmly. However, due to his excessive force, he ended up cutting through the bill. After the attendant left, Shi Yao asked curiously, what do you want to talk to me about? As her voice fell, colorful fireworks bloomed in the air not far away, dazzling and dazzling. Accompanied by crackling sounds, faint cheers could be heard from the surroundings. Lin Jie turned his gaze toward the horizon. Chapter 426. There are actually fireworks at the peak of Mountain Changming? It's so beautiful. Shi Yao tilted her head upward and looked at the horizon. When the fireworks finally dissipated and the surroundings returned to silence, the two of them finally retracted their gazes from the horizon. The two of them sat facing each other, and their gazes collided. After a brief moment of silence, Shi Yao asked once more, you haven't told me what you wanted to say. Oh. Lin Jie replied absent-mindedly. A moment later he said, it's fine now. It's fine now. Didn't you say that you wanted to talk to me about something? Why is it fine now? Could it be that he really wanted to talk to me about the same matter as I did back then? With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao asked, is the matter that you want to talk to me about the annulment of our engagement? Solve your head. Lin Jiej ignored Shi Yao and stood up, looking as if he was about to leave the room. Shi Yao thought that Lin Jiej had tacitly agreed to it, so she tidied up her things and stood up as well. After leaving the restaurant, Shi Yao followed Lin Jiej to the bus stop. The sightseeing bus that Lin Jiej had booked was waiting for them. Shi Yao walked up to the bus and climbed in first. When she was seated, she noticed that Lin Jiej was still standing by the side, so she frowned and asked, "Why aren't you getting in?" Lin Jiej's tone was very calm, and his words were irrelevant to her question. "The driver is waiting at the foot of the mountain. He'll send you home after you get down." Shi Yao asked, "What about you? Aren't you going down?" Lin Jiej stood beside the bus nonchalantly and replied casually, "I'll go down later." Oh. Shi Yao thought that Lin Jiej had other matters to attend to, so she didn't dwell on the matter. Seeing that the two of them weren't chatting anymore, the bus driver turned to Lin Jiej and asked, "Sir, can you send young mistress down the mountain now?" Lin Jiej nodded, not saying a word. The bus driver got on the bus, and before he started the engine, Shi Yao suddenly recalled the annulment of their engagement. She turned to Lin Jiej and said, "Right, remember to let me know when we're going to annul our engagement." Lin Jiej didn't even bother replying to Shi Yao as he turned around and left. Staring at his back, Shi Yao frowned. Was he unhappy? But what was he unhappy about? She did not say or do anything wrong today to provoke him. While Shi Yao was speaking, the driver of the sightseeing bus had already stepped on the brakes. Seeing that Lin Jiej had left, he asked once more, "Young miss, can I set off now?" Shi Yao retracted her gaze from Lin Jiej and replied to the tour bus driver, "I'm done." Okay. The driver of the sightseeing bus stepped on the accelerator, and the bus slowly drove down the mountain. Shi Yao stared at the road ahead for a moment before turning her head around to look behind her. As it was a straight path, she could still see Lin Jiej. He had already stopped and did not continue forward. He stood under a street lamp with his head slightly lowered. No one knew what he was thinking. He looked exactly the same as in her memory. Even if she couldn't see his face clearly, just looking at him from afar was enough to attract her attention. But for some reason, Shi Yao couldn't help but feel that Lin Jiej wasn't in a good mood at the moment. It was as if there was something weighing on his mind. As the sightseeing bus drove further and further down the mountain, Lin Jiej slowly disappeared from Shi Yao's sight. It was only when he was completely out of sight that she turned her head around to look at the street lamps that were moving backward one after another, and she fell into a daze. Chapter 427. By the time Shi Yao reached home, it was already close to midnight. It was already very late, so after taking a shower, she went straight to bed, intending to sleep. She had walked quite a distance during the day, so she was already feeling sleepy in the car. But now that she was lying on the bed, she found herself unable to fall asleep. She had no idea what was going on with her. But when she closed her eyes, she suddenly recalled Lin Jiej's appearance when she turned around to look at him. When they met in the morning, he seemed to be in a good mood. In fact, when they were climbing up the mountain, he even took care of her like a gentleman. Why did he suddenly become like that after dinner? Shi Yao carefully replayed the events that had taken place during dinner. It seemed like after she said that Grandpa Lin was feigning his illness, and that they could call off their engagement, he started acting a little weird. Could it be that it was because Shi Yao was shocked by the next thought that came to her mind? Did she eat a bear's heart or a leopard's gall? To think that Lin Jiej would actually be unhappy because she proposed to call off their engagement. It was true that he wasn't as hateful toward her as before. In fact, he seemed to be treating her pretty well, and there were even times when his actions moved her a little. But that didn't mean that he didn't want to call off their engagement. She recalled the words he had said back then. Those words that had made her feel inferior for a very long period of time. "I don't want to. This ugly, dirty and shabby lass, I don't want her to be my fiancée. Your identity as my fiancée was acknowledged by my grandfather. As for me, don't even think about it. I'll never acknowledge you as my fiancée for the rest of my life. Thus, I'll leave my words here for you. Listen carefully, Lin Jiej. Don't break off our engagement. Will write my name backward. Shuyao pursed her lips as she burrowed her head deeper into the blanket, trying to conceal the sadness that was welling up in her heart. She must have been muddle-headed from exhaustion to have such thoughts. How could Lin Jiege possibly think of getting involved with her? Perhaps he was thinking about how he should bring her to his family for a showdown, or perhaps he was thinking about something else that was bothering him. G University Male Dormitory, Room 501. It's already 12, but our boss isn't back yet. It looks like he's not going to return, Lu Benlai remarked as he played his game. I always thought that other than that bastard Song Chaoshi, among the three of us I would be the first to stop being single and boss would be the last, but I didn't expect boss to be the first. Xia Shangzhou's fingers quickly tapped on the phone screen. Xiao Lai Lai, there's a Voldemort on the left, hit him. I saw it. He's dead. Lu Benlai finished reloading his gun before continuing Xia Shangzhou's words. I share the same thoughts as you, but I think that I'm the first of the three of us to leave our singlehood, and our boss will be the last. Sigh, it's really hard to predict. Xia Shangzhou sighed. Alas, the two of us will be alone in dormitory 501 from now on, Lu Benlai. In the blink of an eye, two of my roommates have already married off. This room feels so empty. I'm finally experiencing the feeling of marrying off one's daughter. Chapter 428. Lu Benlai reflexively turned to look at the door, and seeing that the person he and Xia Shangzhou were talking about, Lin Jiege, had returned, he subconsciously shut his mouth. Immersed in the game, Xia Shangzhou didn't notice the commotion at the door. Noticing that Lu Benlai had gone silent, he thought that the latter was done speaking, so he quickly added, that's right, I feel the same way too. Boss's daughter, boss. Before Xia Shangzhou could finish, Lu Benlai hurriedly interjected. Boss what? Who do you think you're trying to scare? While Xia Shangzhou continued killing enemies in the game, he continued the conversation that Lu Benlai had interrupted earlier. I wonder if our boss's daughter will return home often after she gets married. Xia Shangzhou even sang the last few words of the song. Lu Benlai coughed twice to hint at Xia Shangzhou. However, Xia Shangzhou didn't get the hint at all. What are you coughing for? Are you envious of my singing? Why don't I sing a few more lines for you? Courting death is truly a skill. If you do it well, you'll ruin others, but if you don't, you'll end up killing yourself. Old Xia, if the heavens want you dead, I can still fight against them. But if you want to kill yourself, I can't stop you. Lu Benlai was still focused on his game, completely ignoring Xia Shangzhou's words. Oblivious to the situation, Xia Shangzhou really started singing at the top of his lungs. Come home often, even if it's just treating me to a steamed bun and some soup. As Xia Shangzhou's voice faded, he suddenly felt someone walking past him from behind, and he could vaguely feel a chill running down his spine. Shuddering involuntarily, he instinctively turned his head around, and it was then that he saw Lin Jiege. He was so scared that his hand trembled, and his phone fell to the ground. Even the words in his mouth were stuttering. BB boss BU. Xia Shangzhou stammered you for a very long time, but he didn't manage to come up with anything. In the end, he simply turned to glare at Lu Benlai. Meeting his gaze, Lu Benlai replied with a helpless emoji. Xia Shangzhou replied with a just you wait emoji before turning to Lin Jiege and asking, boss, are you tired? Do you need me to massage your legs? Lin Jiege ignored him. Xia Shangzhou grinned cheekily. Boss, are you thirsty? Can I get you a glass of water? After saying those words, Xia Shangzhou stood up and took Lin Jiege's cup to the washroom to wash it clean. After which, he poured a cup of water and passed it over to Lin Jiege. Lin Jiege didn't take it. Xia Shangzhou thought that Lin Jiege was angered by the song he had sung earlier, and his legs trembled in fright. So, he hurriedly tried to sweet-talk him. Boss, congratulations on tying the knot with Little Junior. Congratulations to you and Little Junior for a lifetime of happiness. But before Xia Shangzhou could finish his words, Lin Jiege suddenly looked as if he had just received a huge blow. His cold eyes suddenly turned icy as he glared at Xia Shangzhou and bellowed, get away from me. Xia Shangzhou was so frightened that he didn't even dare to breathe. Just as he was thinking that he was done for, Lin Jiege, who was standing right in front of him, actually began walking toward the balcony in irritation, completely ignoring him. Chapter 429. After Xia Shangzhou and Lu Binlai finished speaking, incredulous looks surfaced on their faces. The two of them stared at one another for another 3 seconds, and as if they had discussed it beforehand, they spoke in unison once more. Am I dreaming? I'm afraid I'm sleepwalking. Lu Binlai replied in disdain. Can you stop talking when I'm talking? Xia Shangzhou sneered coldly. You're the one who insisted on imitating me, all right? Do you think that I'm interested in talking to you at the same time? Lu Binlai replied magnanimously, forget it. I'm not in the mood to argue with you right now. All I care about right now is boss's happiness. What you care about is your goddess's phone number, right? Xia Shangzhou mercilessly exposed Lu Binlai's hypocrisy before sighing deeply. Say, do you think boss is feeling awful right now? Stop saying such hypocritical words here. You must be feeling awful for your future and freedom, right? Lu Binlai exposed Xia Shangzhou's hypocrisy with a tooth for a tooth before sighing deeply. Not bad, little junior. To think that she would dare to look down on boss. From this moment onward, little junior will be my idol. So many girls fell in love with boss, but little junior rejected boss. This is exactly like the lyrics of the song. Xia Shangzhou changed to singing as he spoke. Those who love me are infatuated with me without regret, but I'm sad and crying for the one I love. Lu Binlai picked his ears and said, speak properly. Xia Shangzhou, as expected of my goddess. You're truly unique and extraordinary, completely different from those seductive sluts who only care about looks. Lu Binlai, the seductive sluts you speak of don't include my wife. Xia Shangzhou, Lu Binlai, I'm just speaking the truth. If my wife was a seductive slut who only cares about looks, she would have given me her number the first time we met. Pew! Xia Shangzhou was just about to vomit when the door to the balcony opened and Lin Jiej walked in. He and Lu Binlai immediately grew serious. The two of them greeted Lin Jiej one after another. Boss? As if he hadn't heard their voices at all, Lin Jiej walked past them impassively and entered the bathroom. When the bathroom door was closed, Xia Shangzhou patted his chest and said as if he had just escaped death, this won't do. The air pressure is too low. I can't take it. Lu Binlai, we have to think of something. Let's console our boss when he comes out later, or else he's going to suffocate to death tonight. 10 minutes later, Lin Jiej walked out of the bathroom. Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou glanced at one another before smiling brilliantly and calling out boss, as they approached Lin Jiej. Lu Binlai, boss, it's normal for a girl to be a little emotional and reserved. It's normal for her to reject your first confession because she wants to test your sincerity. That's right. Boss, do you remember a movie? It's called 101 Proposals. The male lead proposed 101 times. Lu Binlai, right. I've seen that movie before and it's really good. So boss, it doesn't matter if you fail the first time. Look at me, how many times have I been slapped in the face by my wife? My face is already swollen to the point where it's almost flying up to the sky, but I'm still relentlessly pursuing her. Xia Shangzhou, boss, don't worry. You'll definitely succeed next time. I believe in you. Chapter 430. After drying his hair, Lin Jiej glanced at Xia Shangzhou and Lu Binlai expressionlessly and said, did I say that I'm still going to court her? Something's wrong with this plot? Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou were stunned. 3 seconds later, Lu Binlai spoke up, and no, you didn't. You're just giving her face by courting her. If she doesn't agree to it, then forget it. Xia Shangzhou, that's right. Little Junior really doesn't know what's good for her. 3. Lin Jiej's voice sounded even more frightening than before. 2. Boss, you don't have to count anymore. I'll scram. Lu Binlai immediately turned tail and ran. Boss, I was wrong. I said something that I shouldn't have said. I'll go clean the toilet bowl right now. Xia Shangzhou quickly followed suit and ran. Lin Jiej retracted the one that was already at the tip of his lips. He stood on the spot for a moment before putting down the hairdryer and lying on his bed. Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou could accept the silent Lin Jiej, the venomous Lin Jiej, and the furious Lin Jiej, but they couldn't accept the heartbroken Lin Jiej. He didn't speak, didn't play games, didn't work on any projects, and didn't even eat. Every day, he would lie on his bed with a cold face. If that was the case, Xia Shangzhou and Lu Benlai would have tolerated it. But when Xia Shangzhou was browsing through his computer, he noticed that pandas were really cute videos, and he couldn't help but comment, "Pandas are really amazing animals. They could have made a living with their strength, but they chose to rely on their looks instead. Do you know how much of a glutton pandas are? To be able to eat nonstop 19 hours a day without rest at all, they're truly gluttons." Xia Shangzhou really didn't think that there was anything wrong with his words, but as he spoke he accidentally poked at Lin Jiej's soft spot, and the latter smashed a pillow on his head. He was so frightened that he didn't dare to say another word for the entire night. But there was also that one time when Lu Benlai was browsing through comedy videos, and he happened upon a cooking video. The background music was rather adorable. "You said that I'm too meaty and that I need to slim down, but I just can't get enough of it. I don't care, I want to eat meat, 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 meat. Only when I'm full will I have the strength to travel around the world with you." The song was quite nice, and the delicacies in the video were especially alluring too. After watching the video, Lu Benlai couldn't help but replay it once more. Then, for some reason, he had no idea how the song had offended Lin Jiej, but lying on his bed, he suddenly started counting threateningly, 3, 2. Of course, not daring to let him count to 1, Lu Benlai grabbed his phone and ran out of the dormitory room. That was not the weirdest thing. One day, Xia Shangzhou came back from work with a bowl of wontons. Chapter 431. Lin Jiej left school at 3 in the afternoon, and just as he was about to reach the entrance of his neighborhood, he received a call. He casually took out his phone from his pocket. Before he picked up the call, he glanced at the caller ID and froze. He stared at the screen for a long while before he suddenly remembered that he had forgotten something extremely important because of Softbun. Because he was in a daze, the phone automatically hung up because no one answered. Just as he was about to return the call, the same number came in again. He picked up the call and calmly listened to the anxious voices coming from the other side of the phone as he walked into the neighborhood. It wasn't until there were no more sounds of breathing from within that Lin Jiej finally spoke up. "I understand. It's my fault for this matter. I'll definitely be there tomorrow." After hanging up the call, Lin Jiej noticed that there were many unread messages on his WeChat and SMS. He tapped into WeChat first. Other than messages from his classmates and project partners, there were also messages from Lin Jiej asking him if he was on summer break and when he would be returning home. There were also messages from Shi Yao asking him if he wanted to play games. He scanned through the messages and didn't reply to any of them. Instead, he went straight to the messages. The first message was from 10086 for the previous month's bill. The second message was from Shi Yao. "Regarding the annulment of our engagement, have you thought about when you're going to tell him about it? You haven't decided on a time yet?" It had only been 2 days and 3 nights since they had parted at Mount Chongming, and she had already sent him 2 messages? Did she want to break off the engagement with him that badly? Lin Jiej stared at his phone for a moment before locking it and stuffing it back into his pocket. He was almost at the entrance of the house, but the door wasn't closed. A maid was currently cleaning Lin Jiej's car in the courtyard. Upon seeing Lin Jiej, the maid immediately stopped what she was doing and greeted, "Young master." Lin Jiej didn't react in the slightest. He continued walking straight into the house. It just so happened that a servant was squatting at the entrance, opening a package. Upon seeing Lin Jiej, she immediately stood up and helped him grab a pair of slippers. "Young master, you're back?" Without saying a word, Lin Jiej lowered his head and changed his shoes. The servant continued to open the package while asking, "Young master, these are fresh fruits that just arrived by air. Do you want to eat them? I'll refresh it for you later." Lin Jiej, who hadn't eaten anything since morning, was starting to feel a little hungry. Facing the servant's question, he finally opened his mouth and asked, "What fruits do you have?" The helper glanced at the fruit she had just taken out and replied, "Passion fruit." Passion fruit. Isn't that one of Softbun's favorite fruits? Lin Jiej pursed his lips, and he fell silent once more. The servant thought that Lin Jiej's silence was a tacit agreement, so she continued asking, "Young master, How would you like to eat the passion fruit? Would you like to drink the passion fruit lemon tea? Or would you like to have the passion fruit mixed with bird's nest? Before the maid could finish her words, Lin Jiej had already interjected with a deep voice. Did I say that I wanted to eat passion fruit? The maid was rendered speechless by Lin Jiej's words. You didn't say to eat, but you didn't say that you wouldn't eat either. After a few seconds, the servant continued, then in addition to passion fruit there are also loquats, watermelons, pineapples. Was he possessed? Why are all of them soft buns favorites? Lin Jiej spoke up once more, interrupting the maid's words. Do you have normal fruits? Chapter 432. Oh. The maid stared at the fruits she had just mentioned with a dumbfounded look on her face. These fruits are so much fresher than those sold in supermarkets, so why is it abnormal? However, the maid only dared to grumble inwardly. On the surface she still replied warmly, other than those fruits there are also pomegranates. Pomegranates? All 5 of Soft Bun's favorite fruits are here? This time Lin Jiej didn't even give the maid a chance to continue listing the fruits as he bellowed furiously. What kind of nonsense are these fruits? Are they meant for humans to eat? Who told you to buy them? Did you get kicked in the head by a donkey? Lin Jiej's sudden outburst frightened the maid into taking half a step back before replying meekly, Young master, you were the one who told me to buy them. Lin Jiej subconsciously wanted to berate the maid for her blatant slander. But before the words could reach his mouth, he abruptly fell silent. He was really the one who told her to buy them. As they were all Soft Bun's favorites, he wasn't sure when she would come to his house, but he had thought that as long as he had the maids prepare these fruits for her, she would be able to eat them whenever she came. No matter how perfect his plan was back then, it seemed so unnecessary now. He used to loathe her so much so that he wished that she didn't exist in this world at all. It had only been a short semester since they had met, which barely counted as 4 months. How was it that he could see her shadow everywhere in his life? After the maid blurted out that Lin Jiej was the one who told her to buy the fruits, she immediately regretted it. Seeing Lin Jiej's cold expression, she thought that she was doomed this time around. She might even be fired. Just as she was about to apologize, Lin Jiej, who was standing before her, brushed past her in his slippers and headed up the stairs, as if she didn't exist. Before Lin Jiej could push open the door to his bedroom, the door to the neighboring room was pulled open, and Lin Jiej walked out. Yo, an ATM. You still know how to go home? Ignoring Lin Jiej, Lin Jiej pushed open the door to his bedroom. Seeing Lin Jiej's cold expression, the smile on Lin Jiej's face widened. Are you in a bad mood? What's wrong? Who provoked you? Is it because you've fallen out of love, or is your period coming? Having his wound stabbed, Lin Jiej's complexion darkened even further. He walked into his bedroom and subconsciously tried to close the door. Lin Jiej didn't hold it against Lin Jiej, who had been ignoring her the entire time. Instead, as they walked toward the staircase, she asked out of goodwill, I had someone send some Haagen-Dazs over yesterday. Do you want some? I'll get one for you. Lin Jiej was just about to close the door when he suddenly froze. Lin Jiej knew that Lin Jiej wanted to eat it, so she asked, Do you want strawberry-flavored ice cream or strawberry vanilla ice cream? Strawberries ice cream. Aren't these Soft Bun's favorite foods? And it was his favorite food. Just by looking at her, Jian Yao loves ice cream. Lin Jiej silently tightened the corners of his lips. Chapter 433. While Lin Jiej was rambling on, a loud bang suddenly sounded behind her, causing her body to tremble in fear. She turned around, only to see that Lin Jiej's door had been slammed shut. Are you a lunatic? Are you a lunatic? Why are you slamming the door? Are you trying to show off by smashing your head against the wall? This is most likely a case of falling out of love. Oh no, you haven't even fallen in love before, so how could you possibly be falling out of love? This is like having your period come. Your reaction is even more intense than that of a woman's. Lin Jiej yelled at the top of her lungs as she spat at Lin Jiej's tightly shut door. After which, she turned around and continued down the stairs. Even though I prefer the vanilla flavor more, I thought of a way to get the best of both worlds, and that is to mix the vanilla and strawberry flavors together. This way, I'll be able to eat both my favorite and Yao Yao's favorite. Lin Jie lay lifelessly in his room until the evening. When a servant came upstairs to call for dinner, he, who had been frozen in the same position all this while, finally reacted. Lin Jie was on a diet, so she only ate vegetable leaves for dinner. As such, Lin Jie was the only one eating in the spacious dining hall. After he sat down, the servant passed him a bowl and a pair of chopsticks before asking, "Young master, do you prefer buns or wontons for your main course?" Lin Jie, who was wiping his hands with a hot towel, suddenly froze upon hearing the words buns and wontons. Oblivious to his absent-mindedness, the servant continued speaking, "The buns are filled with crab roe, and the wontons are filled with 3 delicacies." Soft Bun had said that she liked crab roe buns and wontons. The first meal they had together was at the breakfast restaurant near their school, and the one she ordered was filled with 3 delicacies. This time Lin Jie didn't even have the thought of losing his temper. After all, he was the one who had instructed the servants to prepare these meals. Seeing that Lin Jie was silent for a long time, the servant asked once more, "Young master, which one do you prefer?" Lin Jie snapped out of his daze, and with an indifferent voice, he replied, "I'm not eating the main course. Servant, I'll bring the dishes over then." Without saying a word, Lin Jie nodded slightly. The servant entered the kitchen, and every so often, she would place a dish on the table. "This roast duck was specially delivered from the restaurant according to your instructions. This mala fragrant pot was specially made by our chef from the mala fragrant pot chain store that you mentioned. We've tried it, and it's not inferior to the one in that store. Also, you asked the chef to learn how to cook this fish. This crayfish is spicy today. It's the secret recipe of the crayfish restaurant called Home Flavor that you mentioned. We bought it with money. This milk tea is just a little bit. It's the flavor you wanted. It's a creamy green with milk caps. This is the cake for dessert. It was made by the chef on Old Sir's birthday. This is mango sago, and this is the fruit after the meal, tomato and blueberry." The servant placed all of the dishes on the table, and upon seeing that Lin Jie wasn't picking up his chopsticks, she couldn't help but say, "Young master, you should eat while it's hot. It won't taste as good once it gets cold." Lin Jie stared at the dishes on the table, not reacting at all. The servant spoke up once more, "Young master." Lin Jie finally snapped out of his daze. It took him 3 seconds before his gaze finally fell on the servants, and a few more seconds later he said, "Take these away. You can have your meal later. Just make me some instant noodles." Chapter 434. The maid thought that she had heard wrongly, so she stared at Lin Jie blankly for a long time before she asked hesitantly, "Instant noodles?" Lin Jie replied with an He paused for 2 seconds. He was just about to add a ham sausage when he suddenly recalled how Shi Yao often munched on ham sausages when they played together. In an instant, the words that he wanted to add a ham sausage got stuck in his throat, and he couldn't bring himself to say them anymore. The heavens really wanted him dead. Could someone tell me if I'll ever be able to eat anything in the future? Lin Jie sighed inwardly before waving his hand to the maid and saying, "Go." Seeing that Lin Jie wasn't joking, the maid could only remove the sumptuous delicacies from the table and head to the kitchen to cook instant noodles. By the time the maid was done cooking the instant noodles, Lin Jie was still seated at the dining table. His head was tilted to the side, and he was looking out through the wide floor-to-ceiling windows of the dining room. The maid's impression of Lin Jie was that he was a man of few words, but this was the first time she had seen him so quiet. She couldn't help but take a few more glances at him. It was only then that she realized that Lin Jie wasn't looking at the night scenery outside the window but in a daze, or to be more precise, he looked like he was in a daze. In a daze? The maid was shocked by this realization, so much so that when she placed the instant noodles on the table, she accidentally used too much force, resulting in a resounding clang. Lin Jie snapped out of his daze. Without saying a word, he picked up his chopsticks and began eating the instant noodles silently. Walking out of the dining room, Lin Jie received a call from Liang Juicy. A call from the relative of the villain who ruined one's marriage? Lin Jie sneered coldly in his heart as he blacklisted Liang Juicy in the next second. Putting away his phone, Lin Jiej was just about to head upstairs when he suddenly noticed that the television in the living room was still on. Two maids who had nothing else to do were currently watching it. The television was playing a Korean drama, and they were speaking in Korean. As he was walking up the stairs, he happened to be facing the television, so he took a few more glances at it. It was then that he realized that the male lead was confessing to the female lead. The male lead's lines were particularly moving. Do you think that today is especially sweet? From now on, days like this will become your daily routine? Female lead. What do you mean? The male lead. I want to date you. The female lead was stunned. After about 3 seconds, she said, I'm sorry, you're not my type. A servant couldn't help but sigh when she saw this. Wow, the confession actually failed. I've lost and lost. These words caused Lin Jiej to freeze on the spot. After about 3 seconds, he lifted his feet. This time, he didn't go upstairs. Instead, he walked directly to the TV and unplugged it. He didn't wait for the two servants to speak and coldly said, Are you done with your work? Let's watch TV here. I paid you to come here just to watch TV? If you really have nothing to do, then go jogging in the yard. After saying those words, Lin Jiej left the two stunned servants behind and headed upstairs. Back in the bedroom, he collapsed on the bed again. He didn't know how long he had been lying there. Maybe it was a long time, maybe it was just a short while. Then there was a knock on the bedroom door. He pretended not to hear. But the knocking didn't stop at all. Unable to take it any longer, Lin Jiej got off the bed, walked to the door and pulled it open. He was just about to yell at the servant when the latter spoke up first. Young master, Miss Sure is here. Young mistress asked me to call you down. Chapter 435. Young master, Miss Sure is here. The first young mistress told me to call you down. Lin Jiej replied with a nonchalant indicating that he understood. Then, he walked out of his bedroom absent-mindedly, but as soon as he took a step forward, the words that the maid had said earlier suddenly flashed across his mind once more. Monsieur. Sure Yao. Soft bun. The big white chubby who's been sending me frequent messages about canceling our engagement recently. As the series of nicknames flashed across Lin Jiej's mind, he retreated back into his room and slammed the door on the maid's face. The servant standing at the door stared blankly at the door that had suddenly closed. After a long while, she raised her head with a puzzled expression and knocked on the door again. Young master? Young master? The maid called out a few more times, but there was no response. Left with no choice, she could only turn around and head down to seek instructions from the first young mistress. In his bedroom, Lin Jiej locked the door from the inside, and in the next second he was pacing back and forth in his room. Why is she here? What is she doing here? Is it because I haven't replied to her messages for a long time? So she came here personally to ask me when I'm going to cancel our engagement? Is there a need to be in such a hurry? As the saying goes, a day as husband and wife means 100 days of devotion. Even though we can't be considered as husband and wife, we can still be considered as an engaged couple. Not to mention we've been together for 6.5 years. That's several hundred days of devotion. No, I can't meet her. Just as this thought surfaced in Lin Jiej's mind, someone knocked on his bedroom door once more. This time it wasn't the maid's voice but Lin Jiej's elegant voice. Jiej? Lin Jiej? She had only called out to him twice when she suddenly grew impatient. Lin Jiej, I'm warning you, don't test my patience. I'm only holding back because you're on your period, but I'm going to count to 3. If you don't scram out here right now, I'll have to resort to unconventional means. 3. Didn't they say that older sisters dote on younger brothers and older brothers dote on younger sisters? Why hadn't he felt any love from Lin Jiej before? Lin Jiej heard that Lin Jiej had already started counting outside. He glanced left and right for 2 seconds before heading into the changing room. Soon he came out with a new set of clothes. 2. What do you mean by 2? You're just a bolded 2. Lin Jiej thought as he stuffed his phone and wallet into his pocket. 1. As soon as the number was settled, Lin Jiej quickly spoke up. Yao, come up for a moment. Lin Jiej said that he has something to tell you. As they were separated by 2 floors, and the door to the bedroom was tightly shut, Lin Jiej couldn't hear Sure Yao's voice. But following that, He heard Lin Jia's suppressed voice as she leaned closer to the door and said gleefully, "If you're that capable, don't open the door even if Yao Yao is here." Did he look like that kind of incompetent person? How in the world did Lin Jia see that he was incapable? Lin Jie snorted disdainfully in his heart before making his way to the changing room. Along the way, he quickly calculated in his mind. His window was about 4 meters high from the ground. If he jumped down from the balcony, it would be 2 meters. According to the freefall calculations, the acceleration, the impact, all these seemed to be within the acceptable range. Chapter 436. With this thought in mind, Lin Jie specially picked out a few extra thick blankets and pillows and walked out of the changing room. Barely after he stepped onto the balcony, someone knocked on the door behind him. Following which, Shi Yao's voice sounded, "Lin Jie." Lin Jie's body stiffened for a moment before he tossed the things he was carrying down the stairs. When Shi Yao called out Lin Jie for the second time, he leaped off the balcony window without any hesitation. Since he wasn't in the room anymore, opening the door had nothing to do with whether he had the ability or not, right? After landing on the ground, Lin Jie tidied up his clothes before picking up the blankets and pillows on the floor. After which, he headed straight to the underground parking lot and stuffed them into his car. In order to hide his presence, he slipped out of the house through the back door along the dark alley. On the way out of the neighborhood, Lin Jie took out his phone and released Liang Jusi from the small black room. After which, he dialed a number. It didn't take long for the call to connect. Through the phone, he could hear the commotion on the other end. Without waiting for Liang Jusi to speak, Lin Jie asked where. Liang Jusi raised his voice and reported the address. Without saying a word, Lin Jie pressed on the button to end the call. He paused for a moment, thinking that Lin Jie would surely call him if she couldn't find anyone else. So he transferred the call to a phone number that he had left at home and rarely used. If he wasn't mistaken, that phone was locked in a cupboard so that Lin Jie could look for it after hearing its ringtone. Standing by the roadside, Lin Jie couldn't help but sigh deeply as he flagged down a taxi. He had never felt so pitiful in his entire life. Because of Soft Bun, he was now homeless. After Shi Yao called out Lin Jie's name for the third time and received no response, Lin Jie, who was standing by the side, finally ran out of patience. She first knocked on the door twice, but there was still no response. So she raised her leg and kicked the door. Seeing that it didn't budge in the slightest, she turned to Shi Yao and said gently, "Yao, take 2 steps back." Looking at Lin Jie's gentle expression, Shi Yao didn't think too much into it. She obediently replied with an before taking 2 steps back. But right after she took those 2 steps back, before she could even stabilize herself, Lin Jie abruptly raised her leg and kicked the door heavily. Then, accompanied by a kacha-kacha sound, the door shook violently twice and then opened. Shi Yao widened her eyes in astonishment. Sis Jie actually kicked open the door with her bare hands? Looking at the open door, Lin Jie clapped her hands and led the way into Lin Jie's bedroom. "Yao Yao, come in." She took 2 steps forward, but after noticing that there was no movement behind her, she turned around and saw Shi Yao staring at her blankly. She was stunned for a moment before she blinked her eyes a few times. Then she lowered her head to look at the wooden splinters that had fallen from the broken lock, and she blinked her eyes once more. After which, she raised her head and smiled amiably at Shi Yao, saying, "Yao, let me tell you something. There's something wrong with Lin Jie's bedroom door, just like everyone else's. Wasn't her reason too overbearing?" Chapter 437. At this point, Lin Jie couldn't bring herself to continue with her nonsense. To spout nonsense with such a straight face. Putting aside Yao, even she herself found it ridiculous. Just as Lin Jie was pondering over what she should do, Shi Yao suddenly heard the words "locked" from the inside for no reason, and she couldn't help but recall how she and Lin Jie had been locked from the inside the first time they entered his bedroom. She nodded in agreement and said, "Oh, I know. There's indeed something wrong with his door." "Ah, she believes me? It can't be, right? How could he be believed when he was lying with his eyes wide open?" Lin Jie stared at Shi Yao in disbelief for a moment before grasping the crux of the matter. "Yao Yao, how do you know that there's something wrong with his door?" I was too preoccupied with replying to Sis Jai's words that I forgot that her words could easily lead to more conjectures. Just as Shi Yao was thinking about how she should respond to Lin Jai's words, Lin Jai seemed to have guessed something, and she spoke up once more. Oh, I get it. Ah, were you locked from the inside before? When? You were locked from the inside together with Lin Jiej? Hurry up and tell me, what did the two of you do after you were locked in the room? Was it during the day or at night? Shi Yao's face reddened upon hearing Lin Jai's question. Sis Jai, that was an accident. Lin Jai replied with a knowing look. I understand. Love begins with accidents. Lin Jai's tone was relaxed a moment ago, but after saying those words, her eyes suddenly dimmed. That's right. Love starts from an accident. Just like her and Qin Ting, it also started from an accident. But their love in the end was really just an accident. Embarrassed by Lin Jai's words, Shi Yao's face reddened even further, and she lowered her head. Sis Jai, hearing Shi Yao's voice, Lin Jai snapped out of her daze, and in just a short instant, her expression reverted back to its previous gleeful look. All right, stop fooling around. Lin Jiej, where are you? Come out. ATM, can you hear me? If you dare, come out right now. HM? Why wasn't it in the cupboard under the bed? Or even in the toilet? How could a person suddenly disappear into thin air? If the heavens were to give Liang Jusi another chance to relive this day, he would choose not to tell Lin Jiej his address. As the saying goes, it's easy to invite a god, but it's hard to coax him. It had only been 5 short minutes since Lin Jiej had arrived, but he had already lost all hope in life. It was as if he was suffering from terminal depression, an incurable depression. As soon as Lin Jiej stepped into the suite, Liang Jusi immediately stood up excitedly, Brother Jia. But before he could finish his words, Lin Jiej had already shot him a cold glare. Do you think I'm close to you? You always call me brother. 37 seconds after Lin Jiej stepped into the suite, Liang Jusi selected a song and sang it to the climax. Love is like the blue sky and the white clouds, a boundless sky. But a sudden storm, then Lin Jiej changed the song to Under the Bridge in front of the gate. A flock of ducks walk by. Come, count them 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. Chapter 438. 2 minutes and 48 seconds after Lin Jiej stepped into the suite, there was a male couple among the guests. The two of them were a little too close to one another, and from time to time, they would clinch their beer bottles against each other. On the third clinch, Lin Jiej spoke up once more. Can the two of you sit a little further away? 5 minutes later, Lin Jiej and Liang Jusi were the only ones left in the bustling suite. Liang Jusi shot a glance at Lin Jiej, who was leaning against the sofa with an incredibly dark expression on his face. He shook his head and sighed deeply before speaking up. Judging from your expression, it can't be that you've just fallen out of love. Before Lin Jiej could finish saying the word love, he was already glaring at Liang Jusi with a gaze so sharp that it seemed as if countless blades were hidden in the depths of his eyes. Liang Jusi hurriedly covered his mouth in fright. *T. He actually guessed it right. However, he hadn't fallen in love before, so he couldn't be considered to have fallen out of love. So, was this a show of affection between the two of them? My dear Grandma, I'm afraid that I'll be living a life worse than death in the near future. While Liang Jusi was lamenting in his heart, Lin Jiej reached out for a bottle of water on the table. Liang Jusi's eyes darted around as he hurriedly spoke up to stop him. If you're in a bad mood, you should drink. The intelligence of his entire family must have been inherited from him. As long as he could get Brother Jia drunk, wouldn't he be able to live his life in fear and tread on thin ice? With such thoughts in mind, Liang Jusi spoke up. Alcohol is a good thing. Getting drunk can cure 1,000 worries, and it can make a person forget all the unhappy things. Brother, I'll drink with you tonight. As he spoke, Liang Jusi picked up 2 unopened bottles of beer from the table, and passed one of them to Lin Jiej. After which, he raised his own bottle to Lin Jiej and poured it down his throat. When Liang Jusi had drunk around half a minute, Lin Jiej also brought the bottle to his lips. 5 minutes later, the beer on the table was finished. Liang Jusi called for a waiter, and the waiter brought another bottle of beer in. 10 minutes later, Liang Jusi called for a waiter once more, but this time, his speech was a little slurred. Half an hour later, Liang Juicy was already staggering on his way to call for a waiter. 50 minutes later, Liang Juicy was sprawled on the ground, hugging his beer bottle and sleeping soundly. On the other hand, Lin Jiej maintained his original posture. He sat elegantly on the sofa and leisurely raised his bottle of wine to gulp down the last mouthful, after which, he beckoned for the waiter to bring more wine. As more and more empty wine bottles piled up on the table, Lin Jiej, who had been sober all this while, finally began to feel a little tipsy. However, not only did he not get drunk as Liang Juicy had said, his mind became even more clear-headed. He sobered up and realized that he was thinking of her. Or he had been thinking about it for the past few days, but he didn't want to face it. He rejected everything related to her because he was afraid of awakening the truest thoughts in his heart. He thought that as long as he suppressed the truest thoughts in his heart, over time, it would be as if she had never appeared in his world. But no matter how hard he tried to escape or hide, she was in his world. She was like a shadow following him everywhere. Admit it, she's more important than you think. Accept your fate. You like her far more than you can imagine. Lin Jiej gulped down another bottle of beer before whipping out his phone and searching for Shi Yao's phone number. Chapter 439. Lin Jiej gulped down another bottle of wine before whipping out his phone and searching for Shi Yao's phone number. He stared at the screen for a moment, and as if he had made a huge decision, his fingers swiftly tapped on the screen a few times before sending a message over. I like you, Shi Yao. She was the first woman he had fallen in love with, and she was also the first woman he had fallen in love with. He had to admit that the confession he hadn't been able to make in time had been stifled by her words of annulment, and he had thought that he should just let it go, but on the second day he was thinking, should I just let it go? On the third day he was thinking, if I really let it go, what will I do in the future? At this very moment he was thinking, I can't just let it go, I can't just let it go. I like her so much that I want to marry her. If I just let it go, what will I do in the rest of my life? He couldn't be bothered to figure out whether it was the wine that emboldened him or the wine that allowed him to see his truest thoughts. All he knew was that those words had been bottled up in his heart for far too long, and he wanted to tell her. Even though he knew that she didn't like him and that he would be rejected, he still had to say them. With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jiej's fingers moved once more. I want to climb the highest mountain with you, drink the strongest alcohol. I want to travel to the furthest territory with you, take the longest train ride. I want to. Lung Nuan didn't return home during the summer vacation. She had stayed in Beijing to work, and today happened to be her birthday. Of the 4 roommates in the dormitory, Shi Yao was the only one from Beijing. Thus, she had specially traveled from the suburbs to the city to celebrate her birthday with Lung Nuan. However, on her way here, her mother had asked her to bring some free-range eggs for the Lin family. By the time she finished dinner with Lung Nuan, it was already around 8 in the evening. It was fortunate that she and Lung Nuan lived close to the Lin family, so there wasn't much traffic. She flagged a taxi and it didn't take long for them to arrive. Over the past few days she had sent Lin Jiej 2 messages, but she hadn't received any reply from him. So after she arrived at the Lin residence, she greeted Sis Jai and asked if Lin Jiej was around. She wanted to see if he was at home and ask him about the matter regarding the annulment of the engagement. But who knew that even after searching for a long time, Lin Jiej was nowhere to be found. So what if she couldn't find him? Shi Yao didn't think too much of it, but Lin Jai didn't seem to have the slightest intention of giving up. Not only did she search through the toilet bowl, she even searched through the trash can. Seeing that the places Lin Jai was looking for were getting more and more bizarre, Shi Yao couldn't help but remind her, Sis Jai, you can't hide anyone in those places. Really? Lin Jai asked as she removed the flush cover from the toilet bowl. She took a look inside and said, Yao, you're right. It's impossible to hide someone in these places, but Lin Jiej isn't a human. Yao, let me tell you, I will dig 3 feet deep to find him. Don't you know he is insulting me? We've been playing hide and seek ever since we were young, and I've never won against him even once. He's definitely provoking me. I don't believe that I won't be able to win even once. Yao, wait patiently. I'll give my employees a call, and have them work overtime to find Lin Jiej for me. I don't believe that I won't be able to find him even if I turn Beijing upside down. Chapter 440. She did have something that she needed to talk to Lin Jiej about, but it wasn't something that she was in such a hurry that she had to meet him today. After all, the matter of the annulment had already dragged on for an entire semester, so a day or two more wouldn't matter. However, judging from Sis Jai's actions, it didn't seem like it was purely because she was looking for Lin Jiej. Rather, it was because of her. Seeing that Lin Jai was really making a call, Shi Yao hurriedly rushed forward to stop her. Sis Jai, he might have gone out due to some urgent matter. Besides, I don't really have anything to do with him. Compared to him, I'm more interested in chatting with you, so let's just forget it. Compared to him, I'm more interested in chatting with you. Those words successfully coaxed Lin Jai, and without any hesitation she put her phone away and said, "For my darling Yao Yao's sake, I won't hold it against that ATM anymore. However, let me tell you this. Lin Jiej is definitely a cheater when it comes to hide and seek. Do you know how mean he is? When we were young, there was a hide-and-seek game where our entire family searched for him for an hour, but to no avail. Back then my grandfather was so anxious that he almost called the police. Guess where we found him in the end? He was hiding in the deepest part of the swimming pool. If it wasn't for the servants cleaning the pool and draining the water, who would have thought there was someone hiding there? Say, why didn't he drown that ATM? That ATM of his is just a makeshift one. It's not even an ATM, so it's really useless." Just like that, Shi Yao ate the fruits prepared by the Lin family's servants and sipped on the coconut sago while listening to Lin Jai's relentless complaints. It was only at 10 o'clock that she requested to leave. As it was getting late, Lin Jai was worried that Shi Yao would return home alone, so she had a servant call the family's chauffeur. Unfortunately, the chauffeur had been sent to the airport by Jiang Wangui to pick up an important client. Hearing the result, Shi Yao immediately said, "It's fine. I'll just call for a private car." The servant, "Miss Shi, that won't do. A few days ago, there was news of a girl getting into an accident in a private car on TV." In contrast to the anxious maid, Lin Jai was much calmer. "There's no need to panic. Just let the chauffeur be busy. I still have another person I can enslave." As she spoke, Lin Jai took out her phone, searched for the phone number marked as Peeping Tom, and dialed it. Today Xia Shangzhou had to buy ice cream for Lin Jai and order takeout for her. It was only after everyone had gotten off work that he finally had some free time to spare. After working overtime until 9:30 p.m., he finally brought a steaming bowl of chicken soup and rice noodles back to the bright dormitory without his boss. He took a nice shower and was about to enjoy the delicious food when his phone rang. To be honest, could it be that I've been possessed? As the song started, Xia Shangzhou glanced at the screen. When he saw the words Demoness, he choked on the rice noodle soup. He suddenly coughed violently. He cursed in his heart, "She devil inhumane." Then he answered the phone and said in a flattering tone, "Boss Lin, what can I do for you?" Lin Jai's voice was cold and haughty. "Arrive at my doorstep in 20 minutes. Xia Shangzhou glanced at the rice noodles that he had just eaten and asked, "Boss Lin, can I?" Lin Jai, "No." Chapter 441. Boss Lin, please. Before Xia Shangzhou could finish his words, Lin Jai had already hung up the phone mercilessly. "Inhumane demoness, capitalist. One day, I'll make a comeback and sing for you." Xia Shangzhou stuffed another 2 mouthfuls of noodles into his mouth before changing his clothes and rushing out of the dormitory room. Honestly speaking, could it be that the heavens are jealous of me? I've been tortured so much that I really want to retaliate. 18 minutes later, Xia Shangzhou arrived at the Lin family's residence punctually. When Lin Jai sent Shi Yao out of the house, she heard a commotion coming from the neighboring courtyard through the fence, so she couldn't help but turn her gaze over. She saw Liang Huiling, Liang Mumu, and Liang Mumu in the courtyard, and Liang Mumu was bawling her eyes out. "Auntie, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Auntie." There were 2 maids in the Lin family, and they might have heard the commotion earlier on, so they were eavesdropping in the courtyard. Lin Jai couldn't help but ask with a hushed voice, "What's going on?" The maid replied, "It seems like Madame Liang is sending Miss Liang back to her hometown, but Miss Liang doesn't want to go back." Madame Liang's heart softened at her cries, but Mr. Liang isn't willing to keep her. Hearing those words, Shi Yao couldn't help but frown. She asked curiously, "Doesn't Madame Liang dote on her niece a lot? Why would she suddenly want to send her back to her hometown?" The maid replied, "I'm not too sure either, but I heard the words Grandpa Lin and birthday banquet. As for what's going on, I can't really guess. Is that Grandpa Lin our grandpa?" "Oh, is that so?" Lin Jai replied. Shi Yao didn't say a word. The two of them had attended Grandpa Lin's birthday banquet, so they could roughly guess the reason behind it. Liang Mumu cried even more pitifully. Liang Huiling also burst into tears. "Hubby, look at how Mumu is acting. She must have realized her mistake, so she won't mess around anymore. Why don't you just send her away?" With a sobbing tone, Liang Mumu said, "That's right, uncle. I know that I'm in the wrong, and I won't mess around anymore. Please forgive me just this once. You've always doted on Mumu, uncle." Liang Huiling's husband seemed to be a little annoyed by the crying of the two women. He said to the butler standing beside him, "What are you doing here? Hurry up and send Miss Biao to the car. If you don't hurry up, we will miss the plane." After a pause, Liang Huiling's husband turned to look at Liang Huiling. "You spoil her all you want. It's all your fault. If you dare to stop me again, you'll leave with her." Perhaps it was because Liang Huiling and Liang Mumu were frightened by Liang Huiling's husband that they simply cried, not daring to say another word. After the butler urged Liang Mumu a few more times, the hopeless Liang Mumu finally followed the butler out of the house. Uncle Liang sure is a wise man. It's fortunate that his son took after him. If his son had taken after Liang Huiling, their Liang clan would have really been doomed. Lin Jai muttered under her breath. Seeing that there was nothing else to gossip about, she turned to Shi Yao and said, "Let's go, Yao." Without saying a word, Shi Yao followed Lin Jai out of the house. Even though Liang Mumu had left the house earlier than the two of them, she still reached the entrance of the house at the same time. Chapter 442. Liang Mumu's face was still wet with tears, and her eyes were incredibly red and swollen. However, in the instant that she laid her eyes on Shi Yao, a vicious glint flashed across the depths of her eyes. Shi Yao frowned, but she pretended that she didn't see it at all. She was just about to walk over to the car when Lin Jai, who was following beside her, suddenly spoke up. "What are you looking at? Have you never seen a beauty before?" Under Lin Jai's ferocious gaze, Liang Mumu's tears soon fell once more. As much as she hated Shi Yao, she didn't dare to provoke Lin Jai. Even her voice was extremely cautious as she spoke. "Sis Jai, what about me? I don't want to hear it." Lin Jai didn't give Liang Mumu a chance to continue speaking. She cut her words off coldly before turning to look at Shi Yao. As if she was born with a face, her sharp gaze instantly turned gentle. "Yao, remember to give me a call when you get home. I'll wait for your call before I go to sleep." I got it, Sis Jai," Shi Yao replied meekly. "Drive safe," Lin Jai said to Shi Yao with an amiable expression before turning to glare at Xia Shangzhou. "What are you waiting for? Open the car door." To think that he, a top student of Ji University, would actually be reduced to working for a demoness. Xia Shangzhou's heart was filled with tears and snot, but he put on a bright smile and ran over to open the car door for Shi Yao. "Drive slower. It doesn't matter if you die or if your car is destroyed. If anything were to happen to my Yao, let me tell you, I'll skin you alive, pull out your tendons, braise your meat, and roast it to go with my wine." Lin Jai waited for Shi Yao to get into the car and close the door. After confirming that Shi Yao couldn't hear her, she turned to Xia Shangzhou and warned him. Xia Shangzhou's tone was so firm that he was just short of swearing to the heavens. "Boss Lin, don't worry. I'll send little Junior home safely." Lin Jai fell silent. To be more exact, she couldn't be bothered with him anymore. Xia Shangzhou waited for a moment before asking, "Boss Lin, may I leave now?" Lin Jai waved her hands, gesturing for Xia Shangzhou to leave. After Xia Shangzhou got into the car, Shi Yao closed the door and bid farewell to Lin Jai with a smile. "Sis Jai, goodbye." "Oh, goodbye." Lin Jai took a step back and waved her hand with an amiable expression on her face. It was only after the car had driven far away that she finally retracted her hand and turned around to head back home. However, she suddenly noticed that Liang Mumu was still standing at the entrance, and her footsteps faltered for a moment. After a moment of contemplation, she added, "Miss Lin, Big Miss Lin, Boss Lin, Miss Lin Jai, whatever you like, just don't call me Sis Jai." Hearing Lin Jai's words, Liang Mumu's eyes brimmed with tears once more. Lin Jai replied impassively with a heh in her heart before storming into her house. As soon as she got home, the first thing Shi Yao did was return Lin Jai's call. After hanging up the call, Shi Yao was just about to head to the bathroom to take a bath. But before she could even put down her phone, she suddenly received a notification. She subconsciously took a look at the screen and saw that it was a message from Lin Jiej. She thought that he had finally replied to her about the annulment of their engagement, so she quickly tapped on it. What she saw were 6 words that she couldn't even imagine in her wildest dreams. "I like you, Shi Yao. I like you, Shi Yao." As these 6 words flashed through Shi Yao's mind, her hand suddenly trembled, and her phone fell to the ground with a resounding pop. Chapter 443. I like you, Shi Yao. As these 6 words flashed through Shi Yao's mind, her hand suddenly trembled, and her phone fell to the ground with a resounding pop. Maintaining her stiff posture, she stood on the spot for a long while before she finally bent down and picked up her phone with trembling fingers. The screen of her phone had already turned black. She gulped down a mouthful of saliva before mustering her courage to unlock her phone once more and enter the message page. Lin Jiej's message was still sitting quietly in her phone. "I like you, Shi Yao." Compared to the shock she felt when she first saw those 6 words, at this moment, Shi Yao's heart was filled with even more disbelief. "Am I dreaming?" Shi Yao pinched her thigh. "It hurts a lot, but I'm not dreaming. Then is my eyesight playing tricks on me?" Shi Yao rubbed her eyes forcefully once more, but the words "I like you, Shi Yao" still remained firmly in her phone, showing no signs of disappearing at all. Could it be that my phone is malfunctioning? With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao rubbed the screen of her phone furiously, accidentally enlarging the 6 words. She stared at the words "I like you, Shi Yao" that filled the entire screen of her phone, and her body trembled in fright. In the next second, she tossed her phone aside and dashed into the bathroom as though she was running for her life. Throughout the entire shower, Shi Yao was in a state of dizziness. She either applied the shower gel on her hair, turned off the shower water before washing off the bubbles, or mistook the hair conditioner for toothpaste. In the past, she could have finished her shower in 20 minutes, but she spent nearly an hour in the bathroom before she was finally done. Returning to her bedroom, she didn't even dare to look at her phone. After applying the lotion, she blow-dried her hair, and lying on the bed, she wrapped herself tightly with the blanket. It was only when she was finally unable to catch her breath that she peeked out from under the blanket. Following which, a series of ding-dong notifications rang out from her phone beside her pillow. Frightened out of her wits, she tossed her phone onto the floor without even daring to look at it. She didn't know who had sent her the message, but it rang for a full minute before the phone finally stopped ringing. Finally, there was silence in her ears. She lay back down on the bed and tried to force herself to sleep, but her gaze kept drifting over to the phone on the floor. In the end, Shi Yao couldn't hold herself back any longer and picked up her phone. Then she saw a series of unread messages, and they were all from Lin Jiej. "Do you still remember when we were in French class? The teacher asked me to stand up with you to answer a question. After that, the teacher spoke to me in French. You asked me what I talked about with the teacher and how I answered you at that time. I'll answer you. If you really want to know, I'll tell you in the future. This future won't be too far away. And today is the future of that day." At the bottom of the message was a paragraph written in French. Given Shi Yao's standard of French, it would have been a little strenuous for her to translate it, and in her current state, she felt as if she was reading a heavenly book. However, the message behind the French text allowed Shi Yao to understand the meaning behind the French text. The more Shi Yao thought about it, the more convinced she was of the possibility. Thus she tapped on the keyboard a few times before replying. May I know? Who are you? The reply came swiftly. Lin Jiej. Sure Yao, are you sure? Nonsense, who was he? If he wasn't sure, who was? After receiving Sure Yao's message, Lin Jiej didn't reply to her message. Instead, he gave her a call. A moment later, the call was picked up, and Sure Yao's gentle hello sounded, following which Lin Jiej replied, "It's me." Before he could finish, the call was hung up. To think that it was really Lin Jiej who had sent her those messages. Before Sure Yao could digest this shock, another call from Lin Jiej appeared on her screen. Chapter 445. Lin Jiej called again, but Sure Yao rejected the call once more. After repeating this a few more times, Sure Yao suddenly recalled that when she picked up Lin Jiej's call earlier, she had heard faint singing on his end. So he's at a karaoke? As this thought flashed across Sure Yao's mind, an idea suddenly struck her, and she swiftly replied to Lin Jiej's message. Are you outside? Perhaps it was because she had replied to his message, but he didn't continue calling her. Instead, he replied to her with a very Lin Jiej style message. Just as she had guessed. If he was playing outside, he would surely have friends, and friends would. Sure Yao continued asking. Did you drink? Lin Jiej. A little. Sure Yao heaved a sigh of relief and her typing became much more relaxed. So you're sending me nonsense when you're drunk, am I right? Unlike his usual stingy style, Lin Jiej's reply was much longer this time around. What do you think of my earlier words? Those earlier words. Sure Yao returned the message and read it again. Even though it was the second time, she was still tempted by those words. She stealthily touched her thumping heart and replied honestly, it's very good. It's artistic and refreshing, and it's also very logical. Lin Jiej. So, have you ever seen anyone spouting such artistic, refreshing, and logical nonsense when they're drunk? Was she sending herself to Lin Jiej's doorstep to slap her face? Couldn't be that. Lin Jiej was being serious, right? What should I do? Why is his credibility so low? Sure Yao was conflicted for a moment before she thought of another possibility, which was also the last one she could think of. Then, are you playing truth or dare with your friends? It's similar to the game we played previously. If you lose, you'll either have to answer the question honestly, or you'll be instructed to do something. If you lose, your friend picked a random number and told you to send those words to that person, and coincidentally that number is me, right? After typing out the long paragraph, even Sure Yao felt that this was the correct answer. Perhaps it was because her message was too long, but it took roughly 2 minutes before she received Lin Jiej's reply. I'm not playing. So, the answer she thought was correct was wrong. Sure Yao froze once more. Lin Jiej sent another message. 2. I've never lost a game. Isn't the style a little off? He still has the mood to be cocky at a time like this? Sure Yao felt a little awkward. At the same time, it also alleviated the anxiety she felt from his first message. Lin Jiej. 3. No one can force me to do something I don't want to do. This message is even more arrogant than the previous one. Sure Yao stuck out her tongue. Lin Jiej. 4. I'm not truth or dare, I'm truth or dare. Sure Yao's relaxed mood only lasted for 2 messages before it was shattered by the 4th. Chapter 446. That's right. I'm serious. I really like you. If he hadn't called her earlier, she wouldn't have believed that the person on the other end of the call was Lin Jiej. But now, even if she were to be beaten to death, revived, and beaten to death again, she had no choice but to believe that Lin Jiej's message was serious, that it was real, and that it had really happened. She remembered that before the holidays, Lin Jiej had sent her a box of clothes. Back then, He Tian had even asked her if Senior Lin had fallen in love with her. Back then, her reply had been resolute. It's impossible. He can't possibly like me. That's what I really thought. That's what I've been thinking all along. Even if she thought that she had fallen in love with Lin Jiej, she would never have thought that Lin Jiej would like her. She still remembered that after replying to He Tian's words, she had thought that the probability of Lin Jiej liking her was 0. It was as non-existent as the sun rising from the west, or a pie falling from the sky, or money falling from the sky. With such thoughts in mind, Yao didn't realize that she had already typed out her thoughts to Lin Jiej. I really didn't think that the sun would really rise from the west, that there would really be a pie falling from the sky, and that there would really be money falling from the sky. Upon receiving her message, Lin Jiej replied with 3 question marks. Feeling her phone vibrating, Yao slowly realized that she had sent something. She immediately tried to take it back, but after a while, she realized that it wasn't WeChat. Then she realized that Lin Jiej had already replied to her message, so he must have seen it. What's the use of taking it back? I mustn't panic, I must remain calm, and I mustn't let my thoughts get messed up. Yao steeled her heart for a moment before she finally cleared her mind a little. That? I sent it randomly. Lin Jiej. Oh. Yao didn't reply to that word. Instead, she began to respond to Lin Jiej's message. She pondered for a moment before typing. I'm sorry, but we're not compatible. Not compatible? Did I get rejected? Besides, how am I not compatible with you? I'm supposed to be a good match. Lin Jiej had already expected that he would be rejected before sending the message, so when he saw the message, a hint of sadness still surfaced in his eyes. However, he didn't tell her to leave on her own like he had done at the peak of the mountain of Longcry. Instead, he replied with a single word. Why? Yao pondered for a moment before speaking her mind honestly. It's because I've never thought of liking you, and in my heart, I don't think that you'll ever like me. Even if I'm the only woman left in the world, it's impossible for you to fall in love with me. So, it's impossible for us to be together. I've never thought of liking you. It's not that I don't like you. Although his confession had failed as he had imagined, compared to the blow she had dealt him at Changming Mountain, this could be considered a turning point. But what did she mean by we can't do it? He was obviously very capable. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej persisted for a moment before asking, is it really impossible? She didn't expect him to be so patient. Yao fell silent for a moment before replying. I'm sorry. The meaning of these 3 words should have been very clear, right? He probably wouldn't ask her anymore, right? But little did Yao expect that she would receive Lin Jiej's reply in the very next second. It's fine. I'll ask you again in the near future. Chapter 447. But little did Yao expect to receive Lin Jiej's reply in the very next second. It's fine. I'll ask you about it later. I'll ask you about it later. What does he mean by that? Is he indirectly telling me that he's going to start courting me from now on? Isn't this development a little too fantastical? Even though Yao knew that everything that was happening was real, she still found it hard to believe and accept it. She stared at her phone for a long while before she finally typed out a line of words and sent it over. Lin Jiej, are you sure that you're not playing a prank on me? Lin Jiej. Do I look like someone who has nothing better to do? She wasn't a roundworm in his stomach, so how would she know whether he was a person who had nothing better to do? Just as Yao was muttering those words in her heart, a new message popped up on the screen. You can reject my confession, but you can't doubt my sincerity. You're really hurtful. You should know that this is my first time. My first time? Does he even know how to use words? Yao's face reddened a little before she continued thinking about it. Is he angry? All right. If he's being sincere, then it does seem a little too much for me to doubt him time and time again. However, who would have thought that the person who ruined her cake in the woods a few months ago and threatened to marry her by writing his name backwards would like her? Yao puffed up her cheeks and replied. I don't mean anything by it. I just feel like my head is spinning after reading those messages. It doesn't feel real. After successfully sending the message, she didn't receive a reply from Lin Jiej for a long time. Yao thought that this incomparably fantastical incident was finally coming to an end. She heaved a sigh of relief. Just as she was about to put down her phone, it suddenly rang. Yao instinctively looked at the caller ID on her phone. Lin Jiej. In the next instant, as if grabbing onto a hot potato, Yao tossed her phone away. Her phone kept ringing, so Yao raised her leg and kicked it a little further away. The ringing of her phone finally stopped. Yao patted her chest lightly. Before she could recover from the shock, her phone rang again. Is there something wrong with Lin Jie? What happened to his cold personality? May I ask who ate all of them? The phone was still ringing. If she didn't pick up, she wouldn't have tirelessly called all night, right? Yao struggled for a moment before she weakly reached out to pick up her phone. With trembling fingers, she pressed on the answer button. Yao didn't say a word. Through the phone, she could vaguely hear Lin Jie singing, slowly falling in love with you, slowly getting intimate with you, slowly talking about myself, slowly walking together with you. This word was so ambiguous that it made Yao feel even more nervous. It hadn't been too long, but the silence on both ends had left her feeling a little overwhelmed. Just as she was contemplating whether she should ask Lin Jie, "Is there something you need?" Lin Jie's voice sounded from the other end of the earpiece. "Your head is spinning from reading those messages. Is it really surreal?" Yao didn't respond, or rather, Lin Jie didn't intend to give her a chance to respond at all. He paused for 2 seconds before asking once more. Yao. Chapter 448. Right after she said those words, he spoke once more. "I like you." Yao was stunned. She could clearly feel her breathing and heartbeat coming to a halt in that instant. She didn't know how long the world was silent for. Perhaps it was just an instant, or perhaps it was a very long time. Then she heard his voice once more. "Is it real now?" As his words came to an end, the silence on the other side of the room caused the song on the other side to become clear once more. "Slowly, I'll cooperate with you, slowly give myself to you, slowly fall in love with you, slowly reminisce about you, slowly grow old with you." It was only then that Yao finally realized what Lin Jie had just said over the phone. Her heart suddenly began to race uncontrollably, and it was beating faster and faster. Perhaps it was because she hadn't spoken for a long time. Lin Jie spoke once more. "You." It was a simple word, but it caused every cell in Yao's body to tense up. She didn't dare to listen to what he was going to say next, so she anxiously interrupted him. "It's already late, I'm going to sleep now." "Bye." Yao chuckled dryly, and without giving Lin Jie any chance to react, she hung up the call. Soon her phone screen lit up. It was a message from Lin Jie. "Good night." She didn't reply to his message. Instead, she switched her phone to silent mode and placed it on the study table furthest away from her bed. She switched off the lights and lay down on the bed. Not too long after she closed her eyes, the conversation between her and Lin Jie on the phone rang in her ears. "Yao. I like you. Is it real now?" Real like a strawberry ice cream ball. Not only was it not real, it made her even more dizzy, alright? At this moment, she felt as if she was lying on cotton candy, bobbing up and down, just like a piece of beef in a hot pot that was being tossed and turned again and again. Why did Lin Jie suddenly confess to me? Yao flipped around in frustration. How did Lin Jie fall in love with me? Hugging the carrot-shaped pillow, Yao flipped around once more. Didn't we agree to be friends? How should I react when I see him in the future? Yao tossed the carrot-shaped pillow aside before grabbing a strawberry-shaped pillow and hugging it tightly in her embrace. Senior Han Jing was also her friend. Why didn't she have so many worries when he confessed to her? That's right, why was she so distressed and conflicted? Besides, she already had a guy she liked. But it's still so annoying. Yao frantically buried her head into the pile of candy and plush toys. After successfully sending the good-night message, Lin Jie waited for a while. Seeing that there was no response from Yao, he decided not to pester her anymore. Instead, he put away his phone and continued drinking. By the time he finished all the wine on the table, he was really a little drunk. He leaned against the sofa and sat for a while. Then he collapsed on the sofa and closed his eyes. Compared to Liang Jusi, who was lying on the floor with a bottle of wine in his hands, Lin Jie was much quieter. His breathing was very even, and his expression was very calm, making it seem as if he had fallen asleep. However, there was a very light sigh coming from his lips. Then, with a hint of drunkenness in his voice, he muttered, "Soft bun." Chapter 449. Steamed Bun. Liang Juicy abruptly sat up from the floor and muttered, "What kind of stuffing is that?" Lin Jiej, who was lying on the sofa, opened his eyes due to Liang Juicy's ruckus. His eyes were a little glazed over. Liang Juicy shook his head as he looked around. "Where's the steamed bun? Where's the steamed bun?" Hearing Liang Juicy's words, Lin Jiej blinked twice, and his eyes finally cleared up a little. "What does it have to do with you where the steamed bun is?" With this thought in mind, he raised his hand and touched his chest. Then, his expression turned hazy once more, as if he was immersed in his own world. He muttered to himself once more, "Where's the steamed bun? Do you even need to ask such a stupid question?" As he spoke, Lin Jiej's lips curled up into a smile reminiscent of an innocent child's. Then he muttered softly, "The steamed bun is in my heart." On the other hand, Liang Juicy didn't hear what Lin Jiej was saying at all, and after shouting for a long time, he still didn't see any dumplings. Thus he shouted once more, "I love eating dumplings, especially Old Song soup dumplings from South Street. They're super delicious. Hurry up and give me a dumpling." Before Liang Juicy could finish his words, Lin Jiej had already sobered up. "Liang Juicy, you bastard. Are you asking for a beating? It's one thing for you to yell at me, but to yell at my grandpa as well." Liang Juicy hugged the wine bottle tightly as he rolled on the floor. Just as Lin Jiej was about to slap Liang Juicy to death, Liang Juicy, who had rolled to the side of the karaoke platform, picked up the microphone that had been tossed to the ground. "I picked up a bone, but I'm not letting you eat it. Who asked you to be so fierce toward me? Who asked you to not even spare my grandpa?" Liang Juicy placed the microphone back into his mouth and began chewing on it. Unable to look at this sight, Lin Jiej turned his head away with an indescribable look on his face. Liang Juicy played with the microphone for a while longer before he hugged the wine bottle in one hand and the microphone in the other before falling into a daze once more. Lin Jiej closed his eyes once more after he regained some peace and quiet. Perhaps it was the effects of the alcohol, but his brain felt heavy again. Before he lost consciousness, her figure appeared in front of him again. "The sky is black and the earth is yellow, the universe is vast and desolate. The seasons come and go. The seasons are harvested and the seasons are hidden. Sure Yao, we have plenty of time in the future." By the time Lin Jiej got home, it was already 4 in the morning. Everyone in the house was asleep. The big house was extremely quiet. He tiptoed back to his bedroom, washed off the smell of alcohol, and continued to sleep on the bed. When he opened his eyes again, the sun was shining brightly outside the window. It was almost noon. After washing up, Lin Jiej casually picked out a set of home clothes and headed downstairs. The servants on the first floor had finished their work and were chatting with each other. Someone with sharp ears heard movement upstairs. He immediately lowered his voice and said, "The young master seems to be awake." As the servant's voice fell, the other servants either ran out of the house or into the servants' room. Some of the slower ones simply slipped into the bathroom. In just a few seconds, the living room, which was originally quite lively, was instantly empty. Oh! Chapter 450. Lin Jiej slowly made his way down the stairs. He thought that as soon as he reached the living room, the servants would rush up to him and ask him what he wanted to eat, just like usual. However, when he walked to the sofa in the living room and sat down to rest for about 2 minutes, not a single servant appeared by his side. He then turned his head to look around the empty living room and couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. This is really weird. Where did all the servants who usually wander around the living room, as if afraid that others wouldn't know what they were doing, run off to? Lin Jiej calmly sat on the sofa for a while longer, and after confirming that no one appeared, he stood up, walked up to the floor-to-ceiling window, and took a glance outside. 2 servants were currently watering the flowers. It was noon on a hot summer day, and the scorching sun was scorching the earth. Yet, they were actually watering the flowers while staring at the scorching sun? Should he say that their servants were hardworking? Or should he say that their servants were mentally retarded? Seeing that the 2 servants had no intention of returning to the air-conditioned room, Lin Jiej could only walk over to the door. Chapter 451. 2 months? The summer break would be over in 2 months, and the young master would be heading back to school. In other words, their nightmarish days yesterday would be over? All right, young master. We understand. We'll get back to work right now. After saying those words, one of the maids ran to the kitchen while the other ran upstairs. Lin Jiej stared at the two figures who were running away with uncontrollable joy in their eyes, and a hint of doubt surfaced in his eyes. Was it his imagination? Why did it feel like their maids were overjoyed when they heard that he wouldn't be home for 2 months? Not too long later, a maid came over to call Lin Jiej for lunch. Influenced by the fact that Lin Jiej wanted to eat fruits yesterday, the maid placed the lunch on the table and immediately tried to slip away. But before she could make her way to the entrance of the dining room, Lin Jiej suddenly called out to her, "Right." The maid halted her footsteps. With her back facing Lin Jiej, she hesitated for a moment before turning around fearfully and asking, "Young master, do you have any other instructions for me?" Lin Jiej sat elegantly at the dining table, wiping his hands with a hot towel as he spoke nonchalantly. However, as soon as he spoke, his eyes softened a little as he asked, "What did Yao Yao say when she came over yesterday?" "Yao Yao?" The maid couldn't help but take another glance at Lin Jiej. When did young master start calling Monsieur Yao Yao so intimately? However, the maid didn't dare to let her mind wander for too long. She quickly replied, "I'm not too sure about that. When young mistress was chatting with Monsieur, she didn't allow us to stay by the side." "I see." Lin Jiej replied calmly, but getting his heart skipped a beat. T, it feels like my wallet is going to bleed. Seeing that Lin Jiej wasn't speaking anymore, the maid silently slipped out of the dining room. Sitting at the dining table, Lin Jiej calmly and leisurely ate his lunch. Eventually, he picked up his phone and gave Lin Jiej a call. The call was instantly hung up. Lin Jiej could only send a WeChat message instead. Question mark. Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej. I'm asking you why you didn't pick up your call. I'm not playing with you. Lin Jiej, what a coincidence. I'm not messing around with you. I'm asking if you have any business with me. Lin Jiej. One wouldn't visit a temple without a cause. Speak, what do you need my help with? Lin Jiej. Oh, I forgot to mention in my message earlier that I'll be paying for my help. You'll have to pay the deposit first before you ask for my help. Of course, if your request isn't resolved, the deposit won't be refunded. So think carefully before you speak. Damn it, this scamming technique was getting more and more outrageous. If it was possible, he didn't want to talk to Lin Jiej anymore. With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jiej typed out a message on his phone and sent it over. How much? Lin Jiej, 888. His intuition just now should not have been "Oh no, it's the feeling that my wallet is about to bleed." But oh no, it's the feeling that my wallet is about to bleed. Staring at the screen, Lin Jiej harrumphed coldly before turning to 888. After receiving the money, Lin Jiej replied, "It's not yen but dollar." Lin Jiej. The heck, are you trying to rob us? Chapter 452. Lin Jiej. I'll say it again. Pay the deposit first before you ask for anything. Of course, if you're not satisfied with the deposit, there's no need for further discussion. If not out of consideration for Soft Bun, he really wouldn't have bothered with her at all. Lin Jiej casually searched for the exchange rate between RMB and USD today and transferred the difference to Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej instantly received the payment. Roughly 10 seconds later, Lin Jiej received a message from Lin Jiej. Please state your request. Lin Jiej. Here's the price list. 2,888 renminbi for the simplified version, 5,888 renminbi for the detailed version, and 8,888 renminbi for the detailed version. Lin Jiej. The price is in USD, but on account that you're my younger brother, I can give you a 10% discount. Lin Jiej. Oh, right. There's also a 10% service fee. No discounts are accepted for the service fee. Lin Jiej. The final say on this request belongs to Lin Jiej. This single aunties are indeed the scariest. However, he was only curious about why Soft Bun had come to his house yesterday. So the simplified version was more than enough. Lin Jia's plan was probably going to go wrong this time. With this thought in mind, Lin Jie transferred the simplified version he had calculated in his mind to Lin Jie. Just like before, Lin Jie instantly received the payment and replied with an egg emoji. What the heck? Just an emoji? Lin Jie. That's all. Lin Jie. That's all. This wasn't a murder, nor was it a robbery. This was clearly a robbery, all right? Lin Jie suddenly felt the urge to smash his phone. Lin Jie. Do you have any other requests? If not, we'll call it a day. Lin Jie angrily transferred the detailed version of the money over to her. Since he couldn't get an answer from the simplified version, surely the detailed version would do? Following her usual style, Lin Jie received the payment within seconds before replying. Compared to the previous reply, this time she also sent 2 emojis. One of them was an egg, and the other was a heart. Heart. Egg. What does she mean? Lin Jie stared at the 2 emojis, but he was still unable to make sense of it. In the end, he could only grit his teeth and transfer the detailed version to Lin Jie. If Lin Jie had been able to collect the money swiftly in the past few times, then this time around Lin Jie was able to collect the money at the speed of light. Roughly a minute after receiving the payment, Lin Jie received a long paragraph of text in his hands. Yao Yao arrived at our house at around 9 o'clock last night. It was Xiaosong who opened the door. After Xiaosong informed me, I immediately went to greet Yao Yao. Then Yao Yao handed me a basket. She said that her mother, who is my in-law, asked her to specially send these free-range eggs to our house. I expressed my strong gratitude to Yao Yao from the bottom of my heart. Lin Jie. After thanking them, Yao Yao asked where Lin Jie is. Are you home? After that, I asked the servant to go upstairs to call you. After that, you disappeared. I accompanied Yao Yao and chatted for a while. Then I asked the peeping Tom to send her home. Heck, I could have just said that Softbun's mother sent Softbun here to deliver free-range eggs, and that would have solved the problem. Why did she have to be so long-winded? Just as he was about to back out of WeChat, a new message suddenly popped up on his screen. Lin Jie. But it's a pity, what a pity? What's a pity? Lin Jie froze. Chapter 453. 10 seconds later, Lin Jie sent him a new message. You're leaving today, right? What did his leaving have to do with it being a pity? Lin Jie didn't reply to Lin Jie. But very soon he received another message from Lin Jie. You won't be able to eat the eggs of love that my in-law had Yao Yao send over. Lin Jie. It might be a pity for you, but it's great news for me. Lin Jie. Once you leave, my parents aren't home and my grandfather is in the hospital, so all the eggs of love that my in-law had Yao Yao send over will belong to me. Lin Jie. I feel so adorable after taking care of all the eggs of love. Lin Jie. You can leave in peace. I'll make sure that your portion of eggs is delicious. I'll steam them on the first day, fry them on the second day, and scramble them with tomatoes on the third day. In any case, I'll find a way to eat all of those eggs of love. In-law? Why is she so thick-skinned? Did she get a marriage certificate? She's acknowledging me as her in-law, and she's calling me cute? It's more like she's just chuckling. As for those eggs made of love, would she just eat them all? Dream on. With this thought in mind, Lin Jie called for a servant. Roughly 2 minutes later, a servant slowly walked into the dining room. Young master. Ignoring the servant, Lin Jie walked over to the fridge and opened it before asking, which of the eggs in here were sent over by Yao yesterday? The servant pointed at the eggs in the Ziploc container in the middle. That's the one. This container. Lin Jie asked. The servant nodded. Yes, young master. Lin Jie didn't say anything else. He took the container of eggs and examined it for a moment before asking, how do I prevent the eggs from breaking? Servant. By cooking them. Cooking? Plain-boiled eggs? I hate food the most. A slight frown appeared on Lin Jie's forehead as he passed the carton of eggs over to the servant and said, all right then. Cook this carton of eggs and store them in a box for me. I'll be taking them away with me. All cooked. The servant took a look at the box that contained at least 60 to 70 eggs and asked incredulously, yes, Cook them all. Don't leave a single one behind. Lin Jiej paused for a moment before adding, after you're done cooking, remember to help me pack them up. I'll be taking them with me. Lin Jiej returned to the dining table and picked up his chopsticks. Just as he was about to dig in, he noticed that the maid was still hugging a box of eggs, and he couldn't help but frown. What are you waiting for? Go and cook the eggs. Therefore, the young master was still as eccentric as he was last night. They were just whispering that the young master seemed to be fine, but not long after, he started to toss the eggs 67 eggs. If he ate 2 a day, it would take him a month. What was the young master doing? The servant only dared to murmur in her heart, and did not dare to say anything as she entered the kitchen. Only then did Lin Jiej pick up some food and continue eating leisurely. You must be kidding me. The eggs of love that my mother-in-law, my future mother-in-law, instructed Soft Bun to send over must be for me. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.